I'm Brandon,
And I'm Jerry.
and welcome to the Time Travelers Club History Boys crossover episode.
Yay.
Hello, Jerry Nash, felt
Hello.
fellow history boy. I'm a
Yes. Yes. I am your humble history boy. Yes, everyone is a history boy, that likes history. You
yes,
know?
yeah, I agree. I am Brandon. I'm from the Time Travelers Club. I'm the historian of the duo. On my show, if you're listening, of course, you know that. But I've always been saying that history should just be A, it should be accessible to everybody, but B, um, I think that it should be done in a way that people like there's a lot to learn from it. There's a lot to learn from it that's relevant today. And that's actually one of those topics we're going to talk about today. And it's why I actually invited Mr. Jerry onto our show because I've been listening to you for a while. Like
Yes, thank you.
since the pandemic. It's
Yep,
there
yep,
with
yep.
parentheses. I think I may have yelled at it though. Something wasn't pronounced right. I don't even remember anymore. The point was, I was like, like they've gotten so many things right that most people don't know. But I'm like, there was just like one thing. I'm like, it's pronounced this.
Yeah.
But like,
Pronouncing things is definitely a poison
oh
of mine.
no. But to be fair, like I should not say anything because Federino. God, anyway, I still can't pronounce certain things either. But so anyway,
Yeah, and
welcome.
I'm not a historian. I'm just a nerd. Just a
That
history nerd, so
Well, it all starts from somewhere, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
how it started for me, and when I just, I came, just background, on like me, I went to school really late in life. I'm in my 30s now. I started like when I was in like 28, and I went in for fine art, thinking like, I'd probably be like an art teacher or art historian or something. And then I was going for my art history degree, and for whatever reason, the way my credits transferred over, they're like, "Yeah, you have too many art credits."
Oh,
Um, yeah, and it's like, okay, but this was literally the requirement, but whatever. They're like, "Yeah, so like you have to take all these electives," and it's like I did the math. I'm like, so what if I just took like these history courses? They're the requirements for the history degree. like, they're like, yeah, you just probably have to do one more semester, but like the classes from one would be the electives for the other and vice versa. And you would just
huh,
get two for one. So that's how I
huh.
became a historian.
Oh, well,
Like,
that's pretty cool. I mean, too many art credits. Who's
yeah.
who's ever heard of such a thing?
I know I took literally the bare minimum of what it was for an associate. I don't know, but
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, so that's I love that, and I never guessed, I never figured that. Like, what got you guys started on starting the club?
Uh, well, I mean, I have a film degree from a for-profit college.
Oh,
So that's kind of my background. Uh, and that's kind of what brought me to Seattle and how I kind of met the people that I do the show with.
mm-hmm.
Uh, and we always made funny videos and we made a web series at one point. Um, and we just like sort of playing off of each other, and we know each other really well, and something that we would always, when we were like hanging out, we would uh yell at each other, uh or strangers about history. So
It's so funny.
that's kind of where that comes from.
That's how it started with me and Courtney too. Actually, weirdly enough, like we got to know each other at a job, like we a terrible job where we were selling insoles to people.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then I ended up, she ended up leaving, and then I ended up working for the same company with her again.
Oh,
And we
wow.
were working side by side, at the store selling this time mattresses. And she was like, and like one day we were talking about history crap nonstop, and I'm like, is she the one? And I finally just like I worked up the nerve because I had been wanting to do something like this for a long time,
Yeah,
but I'm like I just felt self conscious. I didn't know, it seemed too big to do,
right.
and like I didn't know enough. I need that like partner to like motivate me,
Yeah.
and I hadn't found anyone who was really into it. So I was just like, do you want to maybe, I don't know, start a podcast? I know it's stupid. She
Yeah.
goes, fuck yes, I think was like her quote. I'm like, okay.
Nice.
That's how we
Nice.
started the Time Travelers Club like a little
Nice.
ago. It was just like, and
Yeah.
it's just a
Well,
bang way.
the best way to do something creative is to somehow attach other people to it so you can't disappoint them. You
Yeah,
know?
but I mean,
So
I loved that, and it was really I love that she was coming onto the show because she's not a historian. She doesn't come from. She's just a nerd, right?
yeah,
And I
yeah,
was like, this is what I want. I don't want. There's shows out there where it's just historians, right?
right.
Like I don't want that. I want this approachable. And she comes from a very different background altogether, and it gives a different perspective. It also gives me new ideas for topics that I maybe didn't think of. And I
Totally.
think that's great. So I love hearing that. Like it's I've been listening to you guys since it was like just the original four, and
Hmm.
with Tyler and like
Yep.
and then I've seen it grow and with Maddie come on, and
Yep.
I've really loved where you guys have taken it, and I can't wait
Well,
to
thank you.
hear more to come. So
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
yeah, um,
Uh, yeah, we work real hard on it. We do. We really do.
no,
So,
and I love how organic your guys' stuff is. But enough of the love fest. So, I can just um. So what today, like we're coming together, we decided to talk about the Roman Empire, like that transition from Republic to Empire. We had bounced a couple ideas. I think originally we had thought um, to do the Enlightenment movement, and then Courtney last minute had some stuff coming up. So I really want her, if we were to ever do this again, to be a part of that. So I was just like, hey, Roman Empire. And you were like, oh, okay.
yeah,
That's one of the things we had talked
it
about.
works. It works. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And I think it's relevant today with everything going on a day-to-day basis. Who knows, by the time this comes out, there'll be even more
Hmm.
material that we wish we had had.
That's how it
Um,
goes. That's how it goes.
so yeah, so today we're going to talk about the transition period, like from like just a more general discussion
Hmm.
um of the late Roman Republic going into empire, right? Specifically with like focusing on Augustus, right? Because to have an empire, you have to have, um, kind
Super.
of an emperor or an authoritarian, narcissistic douchebag who made it that way. So,
Yeah.
and sycophants who, you know, got allowed them to be there. So, but it didn't happen overnight, clearly.
No, no. That's kind of the most terrifying part of this whole story. And I think that like anytime, a society feels like they're ending,
Mhm.
that's existed after this, they have to do like their own autopsy of it, and it's
Right.
almost like a philosophical exercise to look at this particular story. Uh, for anyone that fears for their own society, you know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, the problem is too, like right now, like if you're an American and you've been to an American history course of any kind, period, growing up, you've probably taken three of them because they do it in elementary school, they do it again in middle school, and then you do it all over again in high school. Um,
Yep.
and we all know that our government was modeled after the Roman Republic, right? With some tweaking, but for the most part, that's who they were emulating. It was
Yeah.
supposed to
Lots
be,
of tweaking.
yeah, like as we're gonna see, not as much as you think, and that's
Yep.
what's
Well,
scary.
yeah, yeah. I mean, in that, senators don't serve for pretty much their whole lives. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah, yeah, something. You have to go through
I mean,
elections anyways. You can't just get it's
I
not
mean,
one anymore.
yeah.
But
There's the Diane Feinsteins, of the world.
dementia, literal dementia, who just don't show
Yeah,
up like lately, and then they're like, they're gone for 6 months
Yeah.
before someone goes, "Hey, if anyone else knows the seat's been empty for a hot minute." Anyway, but,
Right. Fair
so,
enough. Fair enough.
but and like you've got whole dynasties, like like the Bushes and the Kennedys, and like
Absolutely.
people who don't,
Absolutely.
whose very name carries them through. Like so, I mean,
Well, and
yes.
I think a lot of that has to do with that it is a representative democracy, and you got to
Mm,
vote for somebody that represents your views, right?
correct.
Essentially, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Uh, but like even Herodotus talked
Mhm.
about the dangers of that.
Of course.
The fact that dynasties would just naturally arise, the fact that it would tend to go down this route of, well, I might be uninformed, but I'm definitely sure that this is the leader for me. You know what I
Right.
mean? Uh, and then you're kind of leaving up your governance, very important governance, to the rabble. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And like when you read like statistics, you have to remember that like morons are in the statistics. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that's what make them what they are. You know what I mean? Is that they're counted too. And the same thing with any form of democracy,
Well,
is that it
and
has that like
and
almost
yeah,
built in.
and also like because we're social animals, literal and right, like our monkey brains, right?
Right.
Like we're so heavily governed beyond logic with it sometimes,
Oh yeah.
and like things that we're not even aware of. For example, not quite related, but like it's just like a fun fact. Like we as human beings, whenever you have a group larger than like, 3 or 4, so say you had a group of 5, we naturally devolve back into groups of 3, right?
Oh, I definitely see that. That yeah,
And it's
that's incredible.
something,
Yeah.
once you know it, you're like, oh wow, like,
Yeah, I didn't know
that,
that. I didn't know that, but oh yeah, I totally see that.
yeah,
Now that you
it's
say it.
like, that's just an instinct of ours. It's like there with
Yeah.
pattern recognition, why 2 dots and a single line underneath it equals a face, like, and so
Right.
like charisma and things like that. It's like, and like these cults of personality, like it's like even like when you don't fall for that and you're on the outside looking at it, it's so easy to be like, how are these idiots falling
Totally.
for it? And it's like it's scary.
It's
Like
hard. It's almost hardwired.
like there's
Yeah.
like not like it's not like people just from broken homes. Actually,
No, no,
statistically,
no.
if you're from a broken home, you're less likely to fall for a cult, weirdly enough. But
Right.
like
Right. Right.
because but like on the other hand, like right, and it's like, but even then, like there's no true, like magic. Oh, this is how to know.
No.
And
No,
so
no.
it's like I try to a degree not to judge. I judge their actions, I do, but it's like okay, like
Well, it's kind of like if your friend is in like an abusive relationship
yes,
and
yeah,
you want to get them out of it and you support them.
yeah,
And that's how we treat our friends in those scenarios.
hmm
I think the question we have to ask ourselves is how come we're not treating politics like that?
I right, and
You know what
it's
I
one of
mean?
those, yeah, and it's also like because you like for the sake of this, like the American government when it was first, codified and these people were coming up with these ideas, it's the end of the Enlightenment period, a whole different,
Totally.
like,
Totally.
but then they're also 1800 years removed from the end of the Republic at its late era.
Right. Right.
Like when it's all hitting the fan. So like that there's not, they don't exactly have firsthand experience with it.
No,
Um
no.
so
And like I say, it's almost the same thing for them. You know what I mean? Like they're
yeah,
looking back and they're like,
they're romanticizing
they're,
it.
well, yeah, because like that was kind of that was a thing they did, but
Well, it's
it was
very
also like they were trying to not repeat the mistakes of the past, really.
right.
Um,
Like
you
this time,
know,
right. That's the mentality. And like
right? That was the mentality, right?
the problem is they're only working with part of the information that's
Yeah.
allowed to continue to exist, and then that of which that
Yes.
physically provide fires and like Genghis Khan and everybody
Right.
and multiple translations and everything else. So it's like you're working with like 1% of the data.
Totally.
So I'm like trying to make all right. And so with that being said, today, like, we're talking about this period. So I know, like, on my show, we kind of covered this in season one a little bit when we did, I think it was a two-parter on the late Roman Republic, the bloated corpse.
Mhm.
We talk about like a little bit more in detail, like a rough timeline because we were trying to set a stage, but I'll just kind of like briefly run through it, so that like we have a point of reference and
Sure, sure.
so the late Roman Republic, which was roughly, like we'll say like 130 BCE to like 50 BCE, right? Like roughly that time
Hmm.
period, like not
Hmm.
quite a 100-year period. It was turbulent. Of course, where Rome had grown into this massive Mediterranean superpower. Like they had acquired all this land pretty much overnight and kind of
Right.
unintentionally had become the military power of the area.
Right.
And
Sounds a little
so,
familiar.
right. And so
Ours came a little that
and
way.
they had a policy before where they were not imperialistic. They were very much isolationist almost. And then once they got a
Interesting.
little taste because of wars they got dragged into, I mean, some of it was stuff they started to. Like they weren't innocent in it, but like they were like, oh, well, we won.
Yeah.
We have all this shit.
It's kind
Huh.
of dope.
And I'm like, right. And like we talk about,
Yeah.
and they start getting meddling in other people's politics, like Egypt with the
Yeah.
Ptolemies and that, and they're
Yeah.
installing governors and getting them murked like when they don't like
Yeah.
them. And then like
It's
the
it,
Egyptians are not
it's-
fans of that, and like so they have to. It's
it sounds
very
awfully familiar. Awfully familiar. Uh
it's the tip of my tongue.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we talk a lot about post World War, you
Mm.
know, United States and how, yeah, basically exactly what you're describing.
Well, like
Like,
you could even
the
go further back with the United States, like when our imperial era like officially begins, where we're like, oh, this is actually kind of nice, was the
yeah,
Spanish American War, the one we don't like to
right,
talk about.
right, right.
Like, I
Yeah,
wasn't a big of a deal. It's like,
yeah,
yes, we started doing our fun overseas thing, and then we started
yeah,
projecting ourselves into like things going on in China and Japan, and like
yep,
so we picked a
yep,
lot of fluff, but like, and that was when also we reversed, our policies about like, okay, like we're just going to protect our fellow like countries on this hemisphere with like, the Madison Doctrine, right? Or not
yeah.
Madison, just the Monroe
The
Doctrine.
Monroe Doctrine, yeah, yeah. And it extends to all of South America now, you
Right.
know.
And it's like, but like we weren't getting involved with anything, but also if you come over here, whatever, right? Then
Well,
it was
well, and really what like that means, like the implication, like Way Dennis Reynolds, the implication of the Monroe Doctrine is no, they can't fuck with you.
right.
We can fuck with you.
Like at the
In
time,
fact,
America,
it's in our law. you know?
America did its whole manifesto destiny thing, but they weren't really
Yeah.
trying to fuck around and find out with like Mexico or anything like at that point, right? They like they
Not
had that
then, no,
they didn't have
no.
the money or resources then. And there
No,
was like a
like
degree
Guatemala, Nicaragua,
and
Chile.
there but like we hadn't done any of that really yet, right? Like we were
Right.
like really didn't want to fuck around, find out. We were like, whatever. We
Mhm.
kind of our first taste of it actually comes after the Civil War with because like the French got involved and they tried installing Maximilian, an Austrian
Right.
guy, as an emperor of Mexico.
Right.
It didn't go well. It
No,
didn't
it
go
did not.
because then America got done with their Civil War, and then we're like, oh right, we have to do that thing we said we were going to do. And the French were like, well, no, there is, mon Dieu,
Yeah.
6 of us here. We need to get out, bro.
Yeah.
And then we're like, wait, I thought you were going to protect us. We don't, la la la, we don't get nothing. And they
Yeah.
were going. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Napoleon, 2.0 was like, peace out, home slice. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, and left that guy
Was that
hanging.
yeah, was that Napoleon 3?
Yeah, I call it 2.0, but like,
2.0. Yeah, yeah. Napoleon 3. He was a jackass.
Napoleon 2 was Napoleon 1's kid,
Yeah.
blonde,
Yeah.
blonde, wispy child who died of like consumption because our old friend consumption, right? And
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So he died at
The
like 20.
consumption. Yep,
And
yep.
like, yeah. So like technically he's there. People are like, well, wait, how
Mhm.
did we go from Napoleon 1 to 3? That's how. There technically
That's
was
how.
a school.
Yeah.
And he was on the throne for like 6 hours.
Yep.
And before
Yep.
him and his mom got shipped off back to Austria, and then he died like when he was 20. Anyway,
Yeah.
so the point was that like once Teddy gets involved, right, and they win that fun, good old Spanish American War, they're
Right.
like, that's when he almost kind of reverses it. It's like, oh no, not only are we, it's not really protecting the outside world because fuck them, they can't do shit as we've proven.
Hmm.
We've proven that they can't do shit anymore around here.
Right.
But we sure can. Let's totally use that big stick policy where we beat the crap out of our kids, aka
Yeah.
patronizing
Yeah.
attitude. And it's
Yeah.
glorified when I'm in school. When I was in school, it was very much like this. Oh, it's what they had to do to civilize the area, kind of meant very colonizer mentality.
Oh. Oh yeah.
And then
Yeah.
World War II really, because everyone else was shattered and we
Right.
weren't. So we could rebuild these economies. It's like,
Hmm.
yeah, sure, we'll loan you some money if yeah,
Right.
you owe us
Right.
essentially, and right, and it's like you have to have like Americans on your boards, and right, and
Yeah.
now it's falling apart. But anyway, so back to Rome. So you've got this going on, and then also these centuries old political institutions are beginning to buckle under the weight of wealth, corruption, massive inequality.
Hmm.
Mm,
Hmm.
hmm.
Yeah.
It's
All again very familiar, and
right.
like the late Republic era, like I think it's like you said just about 100 years, like it's like 80, right,
Yeah,
or something like that. Like, uh,
sounds familiar.
it's there's not like a moment where it
No,
ends. It,
no,
it
it's
has this
gradual.
slow descent, and like the worst part about it is that there are attempts, multiple attempts at reform to try to
Yeah,
keep it from happening. But they were
but
just as afraid of it happening then as
and yeah,
we are now, which is
and we're,
which is kind of
we're
nuts.
about to get into that too. And sometimes these reforms also, so you got people who are trying to rig the system for themselves, but then at the same
Totally.
time, you do have people who are trying to pass reforms, even if that means pushing the barriers on what's allowed and trying to find loopholes. But the
Right.
people,
FDR style.
everyone's trying to find loopholes, and
Right.
we have to remember most of this, our government, their government, a lot of it's an honor system. I
Yeah.
think you promise that I'll follow this rule. But like
Right.
really once you have enough power and you have all the people with the weaponry, people can
Yeah.
begin to start testing that, especially if you've been exploiting loopholes for like 90 years, right? So
Right. Well, like the dictatorship, right? Like,
mhm. Like
they
how
would hand it over. Yeah, and
right,
like it was all on honor system that you would just give it up. You
right.
know,
And
what
yeah,
happens when someone doesn't? You
and we're,
know?
and we're about to get into that.
Yeah.
So the first kind of like period of this period, sub period within this period, right? It's like the Gracchi era,
Mhm.
right? So 133 BCE, you have a Tiberius Gracchus tries to bypass the Senate. No one had really done that before. To
Right.
pass land reforms favoring poor veterans because these guys were constantly being promised crap and never getting it.
Right.
So he's trying to actually honor this, right?
Mhm.
He's stabbed, well, assassinated, but I'm assuming stabbed by a mob of satyrs because the Romans are real good at the stabbing. Poison and stabbing, but poison comes more later. This is when
Mhm.
they get their hands dirty. Period. So then, fast forward about 12 years later, in 121 BCE, his brother, hence the Gracchi brothers, Gaius
Right.
Gracchus, pushes further populist reforms, subsidized grain and judicial changes, and is also killed.
Now, uh, correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while since I've really gone over the particulars of this story.
Mhm.
But the Gracchi brothers, I believe, they were part of the Populari movement, right?
Correct. And like
Right.
we can't really, and we're going to get into it more. We're going to discuss like left, center, right. It's kind of
Right.
hard because those are more modern terms.
They're very modern. Yeah, I mean
But
that
like
goes
when
like
we
French
talk about like
Revolution,
what is
right?
the people's movement,
Right.
like
Well, and so
that's
like it makes it seem like a people's movement, but like
correct.
weren't the Gracchi brothers also like in the Populari movement? Uh, weren't they in favor of the autocracy of Caesar?
Yeah, we'll get there. Yes and
Okay.
no. We'll get there. there's people. We'll get there. So,
Okay. Okay.
um, but yes, there. The takeaway from this little section is that it introduced political violence as a tool in Roman domestic politics. I'm not saying it never happened before. I'm just saying like
Right.
the real stabby stabs that become real famous later, and
Right.
like well, straight up just by Augustus there, everyone's getting poisoned.
Right.
Everyone.
Right.
You know, this is like where it kind of starts. Like, oh, like within
Mhm.
10 years, we were just stabbing people and no one did anything.
Right.
Cool.
Right.
Um, so now we've got the split of Rome into two parties, quote unquote, like factions, right?
Right.
But
Right.
parties is kind of like how we would picture that. The populares, right? That's the populists utilizing
Hmm.
citizens and assemblies, right?
Right.
Sometimes to manipulate, for sure.
Right.
But the fact that they're even able to talk to peasants and relate to them in any way, big
Right.
step, right?
Right.
Left,
Right.
they right. Like these are not like communist utopia people, we're like we should
No,
all
God, no.
but like they know how the people
They
maybe
at
they even
least,
believe it to a degree, but like
yeah, they at
like
least talk to them.
they're at
That's
least
something.
willing to most of the time actually follow through with it too, to be fair.
Right. Right. Right.
Like maybe we should honor our agreements with our veterans who fought for us, just saying.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
maybe we shouldn't have latifundia, which are these like massive industrialized farms full of slave labor that push out like local farmers. Because like overloading our cities, and you all are bitching about them overloading our cities. Like
Yeah.
it is like right.
Right.
It's
Right.
the bare minimum left, which is kind of like America, you know.
Right. Right.
And then you have the optimates, right? So those are those
Right.
conservatives defending traditional Senate power. So right now you kind of have like a more
And they're like conservatives, and they're also arguing for the republic.
right. It's
Right.
like Republic as it is. We
Right.
don't need
Right.
new opinions. We don't need new blood. We don't need to add more members. We don't need to
Right.
give those filthy goddamn Sabines rights.
Right. Right.
And
Exactly.
all these
Exactly.
people are willing to draft soldiers from rights. God forbid. Um,
Right.
they're a territory. They don't need to vote in our government.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll throw some paper towels at them when they have a hurricane. Um,
Right.
right.
Boy, oh
So
boy. I mean, I mean, it also sounds like a very clueless Democratic Party to me that has like forgotten the common people. You know what I
sure.
mean?
So well, like this is also like when you start having these stratifications. Because yeah, before Roman, it was this empire, like an empire, not in like with an emperor, but like a colonial power, right?
Right, right, right,
Like that kind of empire. Like yeah, it was all a smaller state, and there was more equity. Like like yes, there were very poor people and there were very rich people, but like you didn't have necessarily these latifundia. You had people who
hmm
had like there was just more stratification. But as
hmm
they get bigger and bigger, and the wealthy became more wealthy, you saw the poor people or like middle class, quote unquote, getting pushed off. Right, and you're seeing less and less of a middle class.
right, right.
Right, and they flee to cities where at least Rome did give out free food every day to people.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's something.
That's something else. Yeah.
Yeah, even they recognized that food was a human right.
Right. Which is
Uh,
sad.
yeah,
We should.
yeah, very
That
sad.
is sad. The bar's in hell with Rome, guys.
Yeah. Can we
It's
convince the manosphere that this has to happen? You know what I
yeah.
mean?
So then,
Maybe it might.
we're gonna fast forward a bit, and it's the Marian reforms, and like this warlord kind of like period, right?
Yeah.
Well, 107, you have a guy, General Gaius Marius, breaks tradition by opening military enlistment to landless poor. Okay,
Huh.
which is huge. It seems so common to us, but this is well before standing armies are a thing.
Yeah.
Well before like being a soldier is like a
hmm
job, and Rome makes it a job, and then like the world forgets about it again for a hot minute. Well,
Right.
the Western world, the Chinese were doing it for quite a while, but like you
Right.
get what I'm saying.
Right. Totally.
So,
Totally.
so he's like, how about we let some of these peasants in? And like, you got these old guys, like now we have to give them land? What the fuck?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
It's too woke. Sounds woke to me.
yeah, yeah. So this shift means that the soldiers are no longer fighting for the Republic; they were fighting for their general, right? Because these are the guys
Right,
advocating for them now, right?
right, right,
Um, versus like when it was just like these rich people's sons. It's like, oh, I have to do military service, then I become an emperor or senator like daddy.
right, right,
So they had like their own interests in a different way. This is like, oh no, like I was poor and now I'm not, and it's all thanks to this guy.
right,
Um, I will die for this
right.
man. I've almost died for him before. So what? Who are you, you old fuck, who won't give me my
Yeah,
land? You
right.
know, right?
And the whole world that I know is like with all of these other dudes who also think the same way I do.
Right.
So
Um,
it's like, yeah, I mean, what am I gonna do? Not, not go with
Interesting
it. you
that
know?
like these soldiers are not initially like conservatives at all, right?
No,
Like
no, no,
they're
no, no, no.
not at all. But it's weird because it'll get there, and we're
Right,
gonna see.
right.
So because people go, oh yeah, we can manipulate. Anyway, things shift.
Yeah,
So you've got Marius, right? And he did all that. Cool. He did a lot of other stuff, including like a bunch of term. Like he was supposed to step. There's a certain point where you're supposed to step down and retire and let the young
yep,
bucks kind of like take over. In this case, Sulla. He goes,
yep.
but what if I don't?
Right, right,
What if I take the honors he's supposed to have?
right. What if I just
And,
don't do that?
right. And
What are you gonna
Sulla's,
do about it?
you are like 80.
Yeah,
Retire.
yeah.
Sulla's not cool either, but we're going to get there. So,
Right, right.
so there's a lot of other shit going on, but they're also getting into all these wars of further expansion and trying to like interfere with the governments of like and have essentially like these client kingdoms and states all around them who, because they don't want them in the republic because then they have to make them citizens and that's gross. But like
Mhm.
they don't even want to do that to their literal neighbors, but like also they want that sweet, sweet Eastern moolah. So
Oh
you've
yeah.
got that going
Oh
on.
yeah.
And then you have the social war. So
hmm Oh
Rome,
boy.
yeah, Rome's Italian allies, so the Soci, like, revolt after being denied Roman citizenship, despite fighting in all these damn Roman wars. Like, literally your neighbor. Or,
Yeah.
like,
They're
the
like,
guys.
no, you can't have all of
That's
the
hey,
the
right.
perks, I guess, of being a Roman citizen.
So, the outcome of this is that Rome wins militarily, but they actually are forced to concede and give them citizenship anyway.
Right.
So, what was it all for? And it goes
Nothing.
pretty much all of the Italian city states south of the Po River. I'm saying Italian, they would not have recognized themselves as Italians. I'm just
Yeah. Yeah.
that's geography we're working with. Um,
Yeah.
and so like pretty much anything below the Po River, everything above the Po River is actually considered Celtic.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah,
This is very early, you know.
oh yeah. So but yeah, so then fundamentally it shifts this entire voter demographic, right?
Mhm.
Then it so like they're and a lot of them are doing it because it's like, oh, we can kind of restructure things, and if we work with these people, we can get our way. It's kind of like gerrymandering, but not
Right.
quite. Kind of.
Well, I mean,
It tips the balance away from some of these other
yeah. Well, I mean,
people.
like, the late Republican era of Rome was sort of noted for its,
Mhm.
bribery and rampant
Right.
corruption.
I mean,
And,
so the
we have
empire,
citizens united. So,
you know, like that Praetorian Guard, dude, they did a bad
oh yeah.
job. Job. Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
guard until they didn't get enough
Yeah.
payment. Until they didn't get that bonus. So,
Yep. Yep.
um, and so, but yeah, like so, but we're seeing again another push on like it's not like against the law,
hmm
but like it wasn't supposed to be done.
Right.
Well, we're gonna
Right.
do it, push it through. So
Right.
then we're gonna go to Sulla. So this is 88 to 78 BCE. Okay, so Sulla becomes the first commander to march his own legions into the city of Rome to seize power from his rival, aka that old guy who won't get out there, Marius. Now,
Yep.
this was unheard of. I mean, it's almost like taking a national guard and bringing it into your
Yeah.
capital
It's
city,
it. I
but
mean,
that
it's a military
that
coup. You
right.
know.
Well, yes and no, because they didn't really overthrow anything, but it's just like it's not done. And with them, it's even the added caveat, it was just religiously not done.
Hmm.
Um, the only time people could come, like a soldier could come into the city, was through the gates of Janus. It's like a weird, it's almost like a purification ritual. When you
Yeah.
go through that gate, you leave your arms on the other side of the gate, and you
Right.
come in no longer a soldier.
Yeah.
Just
It's
same
like
thing when
Tombstone,
you
Arizona.
right, and like when you leave, you pick them up, right?
Right.
That's like right, but it was very sacred. Like you're pissing off gods at this point to do
Right.
that,
Right.
right?
Right.
As well as upending everything that's ever been done. Like a president, I mean, a general's never supposed to do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it ends up becoming a civil war. Marius ends up having to bounce. Um,
Hmm.
and Sulla, but then he has like the courtesy to like die. So, like, so like without like being a thing. But so Sulla does this thing called the
People
prescription.
do.
Right. It was very, very polite of him. Like, so Sulla ends up making these prescriptions. And it sounds very nice and pleasant. It's really not. It's essentially a hit list. Uh,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
a public kill list. Um,
Yep. It's a
and
tradition that continues on. Yeah.
yeah, so he rules as a dictator, different connotation to now.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
honestly, like in his case, not that far off when you've got literal kill lists, but
Right. Right.
it's like the idea of like the government was in such a state of stagnation and unable to get anything done that he comes in and pushes this agenda where they can't. It's in like an official capacity, like it's an actual
Yeah. Yeah.
thing. But no,
It's a real thing. Yeah.
and you're only supposed to do it for like a short amount of time. But he just
Yeah.
kept doing it like eight
Yeah.
to nine.
I mean, he wasn't really giving it up either. You know what I mean?
No,
Like, you know, he
so he's
talks shit
breaking
about
term
Marius
limits.
just because he's old. You
So he's
know?
the first, like Marius was kind of like the first one to really break term limits, and Sulla takes it to
Yeah.
another level with now the
Yeah.
dictator position. So you've got that going on, and then you've got that fun prescription thing going on too, and we'll talk about like some of his politics in a bit. But so he's got that.
Mhm.
Then you've got the rise. He he ends up dying from worms consuming him from within.
He's had a parasite.
He had something going on. Some people actually think it might have just been like TB, but like
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
it,
TB. Yeah. Consumption,
it's
I
a
guess.
lot. Like he's got a lot of like it's vivid, it's gross. The point is
Yeah.
something happened to him, and a lot of people view that as divine retribution, maybe for that whole thing about coming into the city with
Yeah.
armed
Yeah.
troops.
You mean he
I mean,
died? Like ever? Like that's another thing. Like about like some of these superstitions is like, yeah, he was eventually gonna die.
I mean, that's true too. Like, it probably had nothing to do with that. But like, the
Yeah.
point was like the Romans in particular are very superstitious people.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
like,
But
the
it's
whole
in
thing.
reality, it's just like, yeah, that's what humans do. You know?
Yeah. But he's got this little sidekick, who supposedly had fabulous hair, unlike him, and it was. Oh, also Caesar pissed off Sulla.
Uh,
Sulla told him to divorce his wife, and Caesar said, "Nah, bro."
yeah. Good call.
And bounced. He like ran away, like hopping from rooftops. I guess it was wild. I'm just like Caesar, like good for you, but
Yeah.
like something I hate him, but also like I'm like damn, like
Yeah.
he's
I
kind of
mean,
he's a complicated
committed,
guy.
yeah, committed genocide. Yeah.
Asshole to where to shove it, like but no one else would. That's ballsy, dude. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but anyway, so but Pompey is working under him, right? And he kind of works within the rules, right?
Hmm.
Like he came from a good family. he rose the ranks like
Mhm.
you're supposed to, but he is kind of like these one of these people who straddles both worlds.
Right,
Um,
right.
so so with Pompey, so from the 70s to the 60s BC, traditional constitutional rules are repeatedly broken to grant extraordinary, like sweeping military commands and reforms to rising stars, like Pompey the Great, who killed
Mhm.
a bunch of pirates and rebels. Well, to be fair, his buddy killed them, um,
Right.
and then he took credit, but whatever. And we don't like him either, his friend, the Slumlord Supreme, but whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
and
like to quote David Mitchell, uh, they're all right bastards. You know
right.
what I mean?
Exactly. No one's a good person here.
Yeah.
uh, and then he also kills some foreign kings while he's at it because again he steals their wealth, like
Right.
literally.
Right.
And by building that wealth up, that is how you fund your political stuff. Otherwise, you end up having to be in debt like Julius Caesar, and again running from away from your creditors across rooftops or whatever. So
Hmm.
he does a lot of
Yeah.
running in the early years. He's running from Sulla. He's running from angry husbands because he's doing their wives. He's running from competitors, but
Yeah. Yeah. He's living that Jimmy Buffett lifestyle.
it's like just like the golden boy at this point,
Yeah. Yeah.
So he can do no wrong. Um, so then in 63 BCE, like you have the Catiline like conspiracy, right? Um, it's a failed coup by
Mm.
disgruntled aristocrats. Um, they kind of charged, a important building,
Mm.
and it didn't go well. A lot of them were arrested,
Yeah.
but they
Hey,
did
that's
not
our
get,
important building.
yeah,
Get
and
away from there.
they did not get because they tried to overthrow a government. Um, they
Yeah.
did not get pardoned. This was including Mark Antony's stepdaddy,
Yeah.
who
Well, that's something that's not been repeated.
oh, Mark
You know,
Antony's got daddy issues for sure.
well, people that stormed an important building and then
Like,
didn't get
yeah.
pardoned. That's something, hey, that part didn't repeat. So,
No, it never happened. And it's never a group of people who were anyway. So, um, but they did not have the chance to get pardoned because they were without trial, which had
mhm.
never been done. It if you hear the word unprecedented,
Uh-huh.
it too many times it becomes a problem. You hear
Right.
that unprecedented move. It's an unprecedented thing. It's never
Yeah.
happened before. No one's done like and not in a like, oh, it's a new idea. Like as in no, people aren't supposed to
Right.
do that, and then they
Right.
did. And people let
Right.
it happen. This was like one
Right.
of those you are a Roman citizen, and not only are you a Roman citizen, you are like in the echelons. You're not even
Yeah.
getting a trial, buddy.
Right. Right.
Which even Caesar
Yeah.
had been the voice of reason in this and had been like, guys, like, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Thoreau was like, yeah, but
I
fuck
think it's
them,
morally
guys.
correct. Yeah.
So they
So,
went to the Roman prison, which is literal hole in the ground, and they got strangled to death. And I
yeah.
talk about that in our episode about the logistics of all that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like
That's got
they
to
had
be
to
rough
carry them down,
business.
matter to strangle them and carry them back out. Like that's odd. But like
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Why
Um,
put them in the hole in the first place?
I don't have
Yeah.
notes on the proper way to strangle somebody when you don't even give
Yeah.
them a trial. Like, whatever. Um,
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the BTK killer is like it's actually harder to strangle someone than you think.
it's like a weird, like man. Anyway, so well, and Mark Anthony gets this like rap of like he had all this debt and all like yeah, that debt was when he was a teenager and it was all dumped on him because his stepdad was a traitor and he was
Mm.
therefore left with all this debt.
Ah, yeah.
And he was never
Crime's
going
the
to pay.
father. Yeah.
And then that's including his dad. That's a whole different thing. So
Yeah.
anyway, so you've got that. Um, then you've got the first triumvirate, pretty, you know, unprecedented at that time too, where three
Right.
big people all kind of come together and go, "Hey, we're going to kind of work together to make the government do what we want."
Yeah.
Um,
In three different areas. You know what
Yeah,
I
we
mean?
got right. You got Slum Daddy Crassus, who was not from
Hmm.
an aristocratic background. He was just rich AF with his like slave
Right.
farms and everything. You've got and like burning neighborhoods down and extorting them for
Hmm.
money. And then you've got Pompey, who's Golden Boy, and Julius
Yeah.
Caesar, who's out doing everyone's wives. Um, and so they're all pooling their money, populist appeal, military muscle, right?
Yeah.
Together to bypass the government entirely. Right.
Right.
Effectively, they're like in a way like that's not technically illegal.
Right. Right. Which is horrifying, but
Right. So, um, essentially, like to summarize this whole thing, right? And then you've got Caesar, the Caesar of it all, which I feel like we don't necessarily need to dive too much into that,
Mhm.
because he's pretty famous and that would take all day. But the
Right.
point was is that this is all like you're seeing it like bit by bit, unprecedented, never been done before, kind of breaks the rules, technically not illegal.
Hmm.
It's happening, sometimes illegal, but no one can do anything either, right?
Right.
Because you've got the stabby bits and they
Yeah.
don't,
It
right?
doesn't
So
matter. Yeah. Yeah.
it's like but you're not supposed to. Doesn't
Right.
matter, right? Who's
Doesn't matter.
enforcing
Yeah.
it, right? So essentially it leaves a hollowed out republic. It's vulnerable to powerful, wealthy generals and like sycophants and oligarchs who have all their own agendas, right?
Yep. Yep.
So during this time period, let's talk about like was there actually any like strong people's movement, like a left, right?
I
Um,
mean, a left in the way we think of it.
Not really.
Yeah, because
The-
I mean, there are two sides, but that
yeah,
like to even like really even call them left and right is like,
yeah.
you know,
It's left like but like we have to remember too like even like when I was in like living in Europe, right, like our left is like at best centrist right.
totally.
For,
But
right,
we're also going off of the same politics
correct,
of what the left is and what the right is. You know what I mean?
right,
Like
but like, if you
their two groups are nowhere near,
right.
you know,
So
what
like
either of those two are.
right, so there but like as far as like there was a populist movement, right, that was unheard of to like really want to
Right.
know what the poor and people think and use them as a rallying point
Yeah. Yeah.
to make some kind of political change that is
Hmm.
different, right?
Right. Right.
Um, and like who, like we talked about, like the Grockai brothers with land reform and like trying to like dole out like proper foods and things like that. You got Marius, who also does some of that. Expanded the military to allow common people to join if they want to, right?
Mhm.
And then you've got like Catalina, but he was kind of an asshole because he's like, yeah, erase the debt, but like it's because he was in debt, and that's why
Right.
Mark
Of
Antony had that
course.
debt. So
Of course.
yeah, uh, which
Yeah.
is why Mark Anthony later champions it as well. But
Yeah.
so
And
uh,
and give me a bunch of money. It's like stop yelling things out. You know?
and then like looking at Caesar, he kind of is too. It
Yeah.
he's a populist for sure. He's the big daddy populist for sure.
Oh yeah.
But he has something called Lex Julia, not to be confused with
Hmm.
Augustus's version of that. We'll get into it later. But he was also an authoritarian. Like he's not trying to work within that system at
No.
all,
No.
right? Um,
But no one,
so
no authoritarian is gonna come out and go, guess what, gang? I'm gonna be an authoritarian and you're all gonna love it. Like I'm gonna
no,
control, and like no, that's not how it happens. Like
and
they're like they become like emotionally attached to that person.
yeah,
You know what
and
I mean?
it's also so complicated sometimes. Like we want to think like authoritarian people just bad in general, and I'm not. Most of
Right.
them, none of them are good, but like sometimes
Well,
weirdly it can come from a good place. Like it's weird, but,
well
like
there's
just take the way.
there's some there's some that you could call
Yeah,
a benevolent despot is what I've
yeah,
heard it called. And like, people will say like, Bolivar was one of these. But like they're so far and few between that you cannot like like they're not even really a factor, like a benevolent
Yeah.
despot. Like
And
they
even then, like,
exist so like not often that
yeah,
it's not a thing. It's
like
not a
just
thing.
look at someone like Lenin or even Mao, right? Like a lot of
Right.
people like it's the bad. It's weird. It's weird. It's not always self-serving what they're doing.
No,
It,
no, no,
it,
no.
yeah.
But
So
but like I heard like the thing about like those two is like they have this cold calculus that like historians always
yeah,
talk about, where they're going for a greater good that they have decided what that greater good is, right?
yeah,
So whatever that is irrelevant. But like they are going for this, and you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet is sort of
yeah.
their uh
Mentality.
yeah their justification of that, right? And then there's like, there's some people that are like, it goes in kind of different ways,
Yeah.
you know what I
It
mean?
gets complicated. It does get complicated. It's so easy
Yeah.
to like paint everyone as like every authoritarian is like a Hitler. And it's like,
No, no, like it, and I think it comes down to like intention, and it
yeah,
comes down to motivation sometimes, because sometimes they'll say what their motivation is, but they're lying. And they're an unreliable source.
right.
So
Because
sometimes you have to guess at that. Like you don't know if they're a maniac, or if
hmm
they truly do believe what they're saying is correct, even though that what they're doing is evil. Like
yeah,
Himmler carried a book around with him to justify what he was doing to himself. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, so what that tells me is that what he was doing, he knows that it was wrong somewhere deep down. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So
And
I don't know. I think a lot of that comes down to those things, and
yeah. Well,
that kind of also, just for this the sake of this
mhm.
particular topic we're talking about, I think it kind of gets rid of the, well, it was a different time sort of argument,
Oh,
right?
for
Like
sure.
just like, okay, well, forget about the different time, right? Did they think it was right or not? What were their intentions? Things like this. You know what I mean?
But like
These are more important things to talk
I think
about.
like if you
You know?
had jumped from like say like Rockeye Brothers and Caesar was up next, he wouldn't have made it far at all.
Right,
I'm
right,
not
exactly.
like it took a while to get there. So by the time he's doing what he's doing, it doesn't seem that bad,
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah,
And
exactly.
he's offering, and to his credit, in many ways, is implementing stability.
Right.
And like, so, like, for example, Caesar, right? Because sometimes Augustus, and I think this is cool, like, to do, because, like, it's almost like you have this moment, a juxtaposition between two, like, tyrants, right? Like, two authoritarian regimes. And they're so often, it's almost like Augustus is just like a continuation of what Caesar did. No. And their Lex Julias alone prove this.
Right. Right.
Um, see, like Augustus wants to get into your bedroom and like control what you're doing. Like,
Right.
see,
Yeah, you have moral laws, those yeah, those famous moral laws.
so like Caesar, like he does do agrarian reform. He does what he says he's going to do, right? He does redistribute public lands to poor citizens, to the veterans, kind of because he has to at that point, because he's been marching those fuckers for a while, and they're
Oh
ready to
yeah.
like, but like
Well, there's times where like he better pay up or else.
uh,
You know what I mean?
to their credit, they had gone along with the shit for like a decade.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I don't know how much more he expected out of him at this point, but
Right.
you know,
Right.
grown ass children now. um, but like he's also providing them livelihoods outside of Rome's overcrowded slums and things, like he's delivering on that. He in his way, passing stuff about dealing with extortion and corruption, um
Mhm.
severe, like putting into law, like restricting how much gifts or cash like provincial governors could extract from local populations, which is hilarious because that's how he got into his position, but like whatever, right?
Right.
And
Right.
then debt, because that's how he got out of the debt. But here we go, debt relief, right? So he wiped out massive chunk of accumulated interest on debts.
Yeah, which is a
Mass,
very populist move.
almost like
Very
clearing
populist
out like
move.
student loan debts and
Yeah.
like that kind of thing, right?
Yep.
But heard that the debts must still be paid based on like pre-war property values. So,
Right.
and then like standard the like how like municipal like governance was happening, standardized how like Italian towns and cities should be run, like make everyone kind of like okay, like we all need be on the same fucking page. We shouldn't
Right.
have like no, there's a law like no like three-quarters of cities can't do this, but this city can because they're different. Like no, like
Right.
no.
Well, yeah, and like I think correct me if I'm wrong, but like Augustus kind of cranks this up to 11 and is like, not
Uh,
only should your cities be Roman, but your
mm,
culture is
mm,
now Roman, and you're going to be
correct.
Roman.
Like Caesar's not trying to and that gets killed because he
Right,
kind of like
right,
reshapes the cultures uh to his detriment.
right.
These feminine wily cultures anyway, so with their titties and anyway, like yeah, the one with the titties helped you with your calendar, but don't worry about it. So it's
Yeah,
called
yeah,
it's the Julian calendar, but it should have been the Cleo's calendar, but whatever. So
right,
you
right,
didn't have that with Caesar, right? So he is
right,
passing the laws that don't benefit just like rich people. Honestly, a lot of them do benefit
right.
lower classes and people who don't have that voice. Though he's not necessarily giving them a voice. He's just saying, "I
No.
am the voice for you," but he is doing something,
Well, he's
right?
placating them. You know what I
Right.
mean?
But
A
like
placated populace won't fuck with you. You know what I mean?
and like two things I always say this, two things can be true at once. He could
Oh
genuinely
yeah.
want to them and it helps placate them.
Oh yeah.
Like
Well,
he's
absolutely.
good about doing the right thing and like like
Yeah.
like
Absolutely.
also doing the right thing could also benefit you politically.
Yeah.
Two
Yeah. One
things can
hundred
be true.
percent.
Um
Yeah.
I'm
100%.
you should be a dick. You know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um but anyway, so that's about as far as we're getting into anything like a quote unquote left, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So was there a center? Someone who's not super like well, let's talk about like what conservatism looks like in Rome, right? Because I think that's
Mhm.
actually one that we can find very relatable. So
Yeah.
what are the core principles of the Roman conservatives, right? So it's the authority of the Senate.
Hmm.
They believe only the Senate, which is not a job, but a class, right?
Right.
Wealthy
Right.
elites, the wealthiest, the 1%,
Hmm.
had wisdom to govern, right?
Right.
And they viewed the popular assemblies, aka everyone else, as emotional, uneducated mob, easily swayed by free bread and flashy speeches.
Hmm. I mean, they're not wrong.
They're not wrong. And some people use that to their advantage without ever actually meaning to fulfill on those promises.
Truth. Truth. Some people are
Another
very cynical about it.
Mhm. Another thing that Roman conservatives like to do, maintain a divine status quo, and they heavily weaponized religion.
Hmm.
Roman politicians were also priests and
Hmm.
conservative magistrates who regularly declared that the omens were bad, or that was raining lightning, or just to legally shut down public voting assemblies if populist law was about to pass.
Yeah. Boy, it's hard to find a good guy.
It's also come and stop when this sounds familiar.
Oh, all of this has sounded,
This part
wretchedly familiar.
is like we're all like,
Yeah.
oh, and they're also the same people who really are xenophobic. These are the
Right.
people who hate like the Eastern influences,
Hmm.
who have derogatory things to say about people from the Middle East,
Yeah.
that don't want their religion influencing their good old Roman religion.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so we talk about Rome as being this like cosmopolitan. They really loved every religion. Um, they could care less. They'll adopt it. No, some, a
Yeah,
lot of them,
so let
but
me
no.
ask you. Let me ask you, because this is a question I've been asking myself this whole time.
Mhm.
You're a Roman citizen. Which side are you going with?
Ooh, God. Well, first of all, as a Roman citizen, see, it's tough for me.
Like, you live in the city. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say, I mean, like, based off my ancestry, my ginger ass,
Yeah.
I'm,
No, I'm
I'm
not
dead.
at all. But yeah.
In theory, if um, I, uh, if I had enough of a education to know what's going on, my
Uh,
personality naturally, of course, would lean towards those populist
uh-huh.
leanings, right? Like again, like
Even though it's the end of the Republic, like no more Republic.
yeah, it's like if I had like known the future, it's hard to say to pick a side at this point, right? But like
Right, right.
thing is
Well, I
just
mean,
like right in this
you wouldn't know
hypothetical
the
where I
his, you
don't,
know.
I think it's so much just easier to like. I'm sure I would have fallen for it. There's not
Oh
exactly
yeah. So that's what I would say too. I probably would have went with the populace too.
because
Not knowing what happens afterwards, that's probably the
right.
decision I would have made.
And I'm
Um,
sure even as like a rich fuck senator's son, I probably would too, because those were like Caesar came from those families.
yeah,
Antony
yeah,
came from those families. Like these people, like it's not like a rando
right,
coming from the street. It's rare when they do that.
right, totally,
And they're not the
totally,
ones that we tend to remember. You know,
yeah.
but like at the same time, it's like, yeah, I mean, like I have
Well,
a feeling what would
I think,
happen.
yeah, I think we have a hard time picking because we know it's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, but like, I think it kind of goes to show that like sometimes your choices are kind of fucked,
Yeah.
and there are forces at work that
Mhm.
are so far above, you know, mere
We're,
you, and
yeah.
we are caught in sort of a whirlwind, a tidal wave of,
Mhm. Well,
history,
some
I guess.
Well, sometimes too, like there's these like markers, right? Like you could have changed. You could have changed trajectory.
Yeah,
There's a point of no return.
yeah,
And I think by this point,
hmm,
it, things are going to happen. Like
yeah,
it's good that it's a state of entropy, right?
right,
It's going to happen, unfortunately, you know?
yeah,
And it's like, how do I get through it? Is
right,
that's the mindset like you can still make change and be an influence, but like if you think that you're going to preserve what's there,
right,
it it's not even the same thing anymore. There's nothing to preserve.
right,
It's like
right,
resuscitating a dead body.
right. Exactly,
Like,
exactly.
and it's unfortunate. It doesn't mean that I love that. It's not me giving up, but like right. So like if I was like had foresight in this scenario, I wouldn't pick any side. I'm like, I don't know how this story ends, babes. And
Yeah, right,
it's
right,
maybe back in Crocodile Land, maybe if I stopped an assassination at that point, maybe, but like,
right, right.
or even before that, we had started implementing that shit, maybe. But like, we too far gone. But like, we were
Yeah,
too far gone at like Sulla when he walked in with an army.
totally,
Like, like,
totally.
right. So another thing about these conservatives too is they were anti-reform, right? So they fiercely
Uh-huh.
opposed anything like land reform, grain subsidies, debt relief, right? Because these are the people
Right,
benefiting from those things. Why would they want to reform it?
right, right, for sure,
Right.
for sure.
Why am I going to make your meds cheaper? Why am I
Right.
going to
Yeah,
make like land easier for you to get a hold
yeah,
of? Why are you right? Why
yeah.
am I going to
But
make
I'm
you
the
living
middleman.
wages?
You can't cut out the middleman.
And they argued that like giving free grain or cheap land to poor citizens made them lazy, dependent on
Yeah.
the state, destroying the rugged
Huh.
Roman character.
Yeah. Huh. That sounds awfully familiar.
It's scary how the conservative part,
Yeah.
like we don't like, do we have a democratic version? Not really, but that right,
Yeah.
that far right, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That
xenophobic.
yeah, not even really far right. Like they're not like fascists, but they're definitely
Right.
like old school, like old, like conservative,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like
The
they're your
religious right,
the right, that religious right.
Yeah,
So, and these are the people who hate Caesar later. So, um,
right.
that's why I'm like, is he right? Like, it's easy to go, oh, well, he was a dictator and authoritarian, and he was in the military. He must have been right, like right, quote unquote, like a right part of that spectrum. No, but
No, no,
like,
no,
no, that would be
no.
good old Augustus. But like, yeah, uh,
Yeah,
and then you kind of have these centrists, right? And at first I was like, oh, Cicero's for sure like a conservative. Not really. It's kind of like center right,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
But you do have like Pompey, who definitely straddles it
The two.
for
Right,
sure, right? So you do have like centrists, and a lot of them are centrists. It's the ones like Lepidus, all these different characters that no one freaking remembers, right?
right, right, right.
Pompey's only remembered because Julius Caesar was so sad that he got his head cut off by a 12-year-old. Like,
Right.
like, like, like he did great stuff and his cool stuff, but like, was it earth shattering? No, he was centrist and he played the game well until
Right,
he didn't
right.
and lost his head. But like, and even then, like, I feel it's like the history nerds know who Pompey is. If you
Oh
ask them
yeah.
random, do you know who Pompey is? They go no. But do you know who
My
Julius Caesar is? They'll
so
say, oh yeah.
real quick funny story. I'm playing Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh,
As I do, because it's fucking great. Um and I'm riding around my horse and my wife goes, "Your horse's name is Pompey?" And I was like, "He happened to be a Roman general, Susie."
I call him like Tom Golden Pound, like he's like Pony Boy,
Yeah.
like Golden. I also this was before that. Speaking of Golden and my ADHD, like when we were doing the episodes and we were talking about Pompey and stuff, K-pop Demon Hunter had come
Oh
out.
yeah.
If I had had the capacity to do the soundbite for Golden every time we mentioned him, I would have. But
Yeah, yeah,
the guy, it's like, and even in his statues, he has like billowing like locks. Like Jesus Christ! Oh my God,
yeah,
this guy.
yeah.
Anyway, so but so how these centrists are acting, right, isn't
Hmm.
honestly too dissimilar to some of the stuff we see today too. It's like this, like trying to reach across the aisle, guys. Like,
Hmm.
and there's a point like where it's not happening, and they
Right.
kind of always manage to cave
Yeah.
to the
Also
conservative,
sounds familiar. Yeah.
right?
Also sounds very similar.
So,
Similar.
like when Caesar comes along and Pompey ends up caving and joining the Senate in their exodus.
Hmm.
He doesn't join Caesar, right?
Hmm.
When like the ultra conservative, like Cato, and he caved. Cicero also went with them and caved, right? Like
Right. Right.
they're definitely opportunists. I'll give them that, right?
Yeah.
Everyone talks about Cicero having these strong convictions, everything. Like, that motherfucker. Until
Yeah.
shit hits fan.
Well, well, like that's like kind of the thing about stoicism too. Is like sometimes like some are praised for their convictions, and
Yeah.
like the one that told Vespasian, like it's like if you speak the truth, I'll have to kill you, and he tells Vespasian like, well, you do what you do, and I'll do what I do, kind of a thing.
Which is
Uh,
like what Cicero does for sure every time, like
yeah,
anytime.
but like there's also a thing in there that's like self-preservation is not like horrible. I'm
Yeah.
definitely uh, not
No,
summarizing even,
I'm
but
even faulting him for that because I'm like, like if I was in Cicero's position a lot of times, I've been like, all right, probably would have done the same thing, like whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
I'd see the
yeah,
writing on the wall.
it's weird with Cicero too because we talk about this with him, except when Mark Antony, he really hated that guy.
Yeah, yeah,
And I just think that's hilarious. It's like, man, like he usually knows how to play the game.
right.
That's
That
with
dude,
Antony.
Yeah, pissed him
It's
off. Pissed
weird.
him off. Yeah,
Literally, like entire volumes of haterade on this guy and his family, and I'm just like, what the hell? Like, so
yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah.
Uh,
I could
So
probably relate to that the most.
it's hilarious. So like, it's so out of character. But to be
Yeah.
fair, he also this is the same guy who hated Cleopatra because she forgot to send him that book she promised at a party,
Oh, yeah.
and it's
I
starting
mean,
your
yeah.
thing.
I hope that story's true. You
It
know,
is
man.
true. It's crazy. I'm like, no way. So I did
Yeah.
research. I was reading Stacey Schiff's book on Cleopatra, and like there's
Uh-huh.
like whole like multiple pages in that book talking about this story. I'm like, with all the references, like this is hilarious, and it makes
Yeah.
sense because I'm like this salty bitch. Like they're at a party. It's like one of the first ones like Caesar had when she was in Rome, right?
Right,
And
right,
he had gotten out of a divorce because at this period, women could divorce their husbands if their daddy told them to.
right,
But
right.
that happened.
Mm-hmm.
She fucked off because he was an asshole
Mm-hmm.
and found herself a better man. And he was
Right.
very salty about it because apparently she was very outspoken. His ex-wife was very outspoken
Yeah.
and blah blah blah. And so here comes Cleopatra, literally the epitome of that. So
Yeah.
he's already on thin ice with this guy, and then but they do hit it off because she's educated, and
Right,
he's
right.
talking about all of his books. She's like, oh, well, I don't know if you ever heard of this little thing called the Library of Alexandria. I run that.
Yeah. It's kind of my
And
thing.
he's like, yeah, I've been dying to read this book. She's like, oh, well, I got like 8 copies of that. I'll send one over to you. I was like, oh, sweet, that'd be sick. And I just imagine him waiting by his mailbox. Like, it's
Yeah.
just like a couple weeks go by and it
Yeah.
never came. And you and I would be normal people and be like, hey,
Right.
I know it was crazy. We were drinking. You promised
She
me a book. I've
forgot.
really been looking forward to it. Would you mind sending it over? No.
Right. He
He
got really mad about it. Took it personally.
wrote Haterade for the rest of
Yeah.
his. So,
Jesus.
and everything we know about Cleopatra starts with him.
Right. So that's not helping.
Like, yeah, take everything you know about Cleopatra with a grain of salt because it comes from a guy who literally was salty because she forgot to give him a book. And he was
Right.
like, that bitch is just like my ex-wife. So there we go.
Oh, that's great.
So
Uh,
yeah, so anyway, so now like we're gonna transition into the era of Augustus, right? So Caesar's dead, we've stabbed him. Cicero literally watched it and
hmm.
bounced. He did not participate, but he did not stop it.
Yeah.
Centrist. Anyway,
That's, yeah.
and
You better
waited.
bounce at that point.
Well, it's to be fair, get it, but then it's like he waited to see, okay, who's gonna,
Yeah. Who's going to come out on top?
because he starts talking mad haterade at first about Caesar, and then when he starts seeing it's going populist, he's like, actually, I really always liked that guy. It's like,
Yeah.
Jesus,
Right.
Anthony, and you're like, oh, okay. So he gets real hung up about Anthony. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So Caesar's dead. Um, he got stabbed real good. Only one of them
Yeah.
actually killed him. Weirdly
Yeah.
enough, it was a
Which
botch
makes it
job.
worse.
It's
Yeah.
honestly kind of a humorous scene. Like
Yeah.
one of them was so bad at it, they accidentally stabbed another guy's hand. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus, it's like
And like,
44 stab wounds. One was fatal.
yeah. Uh,
Christ.
and one of them like stabs him in the groin too. And it's
Yeah.
like, dude, come on now. You knew
Well,
that wasn't gonna do.
well, and then I'll leave, and he's just like there, dead for a
Right.
few hours. And then like the guys are covered in blood. They go on the street, everyone's screaming, running away. They're like, and their response is like, wait, guys, don't run. Like, we did you a
Yeah.
favor. And like, it's like, what is happening? Y'all did
Yeah.
not think it through. Anyway, so,
I would have ran if I saw a bunch of guys come out covered in blood. You know? I'm out of here.
Like, think about it.
Yeah.
So he's dead. And then in his will, he names the sickly 18-year-old kid Octavian, who is his biologically his great nephew, legally and spiritually, therefore, his adopted son and
Right.
primary heir, right?
Right.
So because they weren't as hung up about the biology back then.
No, no. Adoption was big.
Yeah, it's like right. So it gets weird too with that, like because you like oh if you married like your say you had a half sister and she was your you shared the same dad, gross. But if you married your half sister and it was your mom, fine.
Yeah, bizarre.
But anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, but anyway, so Octavian already, we do this again in the main scenario, but like he's kind of already a big deal. He's like at 15 did this huge speech during a funeral, like an oratory, right? And like this is a culture that loved their old men, couldn't
Oh yeah.
stand kids,
Yeah.
couldn't stand the younger generation, thought they were entitled.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually stopped and listened. And they're like, wow, this kid's pretty good. And he's getting into these offices unprecedentedly way young. Like he's a priest at like 16. He's not even at 18. He's not even of age. He's not even an adult in like Rome, you
Right.
know?
Right. Right.
Like this is crazy. And people are he has enough charisma at this point to actually kind of sway these people. And like I was like,
Hmm.
what is it about him? If you ever actually look
Right.
up Octavian when he was young, compared to a lot of Roman guys, kind of hot.
Hmm.
He's a good-looking guy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
all
All
right,
right. All
like,
right.
okay. But I'm like,
So he's a good looking guy.
yeah,
He's good at oratory. Rome loves their oratory. You
yeah.
know.
And that was the mentality of these old 80-year-old conservative fucks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they love him, but he's young and apparently attractive. Like, and he's got this like sickly air, but like that somehow adds to it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's like a Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know what? Cast young Timothy Chalamet. If you listen to
There you go.
the show, get on
There you
that.
go.
Anyway, so, um, now I'm never gonna have that knot in my head. Anyway,
There you go. There you go. You're welcome.
so Octavian, of course, comes to claim it. It's a massive inheritance, right? A lot of people are salty, including Mark Antony, but whatever. Um,
Right.
the thing about the Senate, though, is they like him, but they also underestimate him, right?
Hmm.
Well, he's just a kid. We can manipulate him.
Right. Right.
They treat him as a child.
Right.
They're like, we'll use him for our purposes, then when we're done, we'll throw him away.
Hmm.
They done fucked up, right?
Yeah.
Tell again if this sounds familiar. Like we can control this guy who doesn't really belong in with us, but like our people seem to really be into him.
Yeah.
So we'll just
Yeah.
use him.
I
Like,
feel like we could push him in one way or the other, and he'll just say
yeah,
yes to it. He knows the score well enough. To just say
yeah,
yes to it. You know.
right, right. So don't Google it. So instead, he ends up forcing the Senate to make him consul at 19 years old,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is unheard of, unprecedented.
Yeah.
Um,
And there used to be two consoles, but now there's one.
mhm. So he realizes he can't fight everyone at once. So Octavian allies with Caesar's top generals, including Mark Antony and Lepidus, who I always imagine as Butters because of another show. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
God, if it's anyway. So that guy. So I don't
Good.
usually feel bad for these old white guys from history, but poor Lepidus, man. It's just he was also like really good to his wife. Like
Yeah.
he came back to Rome for her, even though it could have gotten
Uh-huh.
him killed, just because she had gotten arrested and he was wanting to defend her. I'm like that
Huh.
nice
Yeah.
for a Roman guy. He's
Yeah.
like,
Not a lot
please,
of them would have done that.
you're really after. Please just let my wife go. And they did
Wow.
let both go in
Yeah,
exile.
at least there's that in exile.
That's
Hey,
nice.
that's nice. Yeah.
And Starvation Island. So that was that.
Right. Right.
So anyway,
Yeah. It's
um,
not modern.
Yeah.
Malta,
Uh,
or Capri or
well,
something,
like, well, they're probably fine, but like he's
Yeah,
out of the game. So
yeah,
anyway, and so they ruthlessly hunt down Caesar's assassins. The ones who thought it was a great idea and everyone would be on board with it. And people weren't. And then they get killed, and eventually they all fall apart too, right? Antony, as we talk about in our show, ends up getting killed because he gets a little too comfortable with a different culture,
right,
um, and starts selling off government land to his kids.
right.
Was frowned upon.
Yeah, that's
Um,
not corrupt at all.
yeah. And then like Octavian's working this whole propaganda war, right? So this is
Yeah,
like really the first time someone's really done this, right? Not that propaganda was new, but like to make it like a whole campaign like this, it's kind of unheard of in history up until this point, right?
yeah,
So he frames the coming conflict as not a civil war. This is not a civil war, guys.
right,
We're not at war,
right.
right? I
Yeah,
told you we wouldn't go to war. This is not a war.
yeah. It's not
Okay,
a war.
it's not a civil war. But this is a crusade against that bitch Cleopatra with her magical moves, who's corrupting our boy Antony.
Yeah, yeah.
It's her fault.
And she'll corrupt all of Rome too.
That Eastern culture, right? It's
Yeah,
penetrating our culture, and we don't get penetrated here. That's
yeah,
like
yeah. It's
it's,
one thing we can't stand.
so unless we're doing it anyway. So we can
Yeah,
have
yeah,
the boys. We can penetrate all the boys, but we can't be penetrated. That's different.
yeah.
That's the thing. So anyway, a weird thing we also inherited. So um, so now Octavian also has a yes man, right?
Mhm.
He's a good brick, right? And he doesn't ask too many
Right,
questions. That was kind of the problem with like Caesar and Antony. Antony did have his own ambitions, right? And he didn't always get
right.
along with Caesar, right? I mean, they did of course, by the end and shit, but like Caesar had to like
Yeah,
hate Anthony and kind of rein him in because he was wild.
yeah, yeah.
Agrippa, just good old reliable Agrippa. He'll just do whatever the fuck you tell him to.
Right.
He'll do your war, give you the credit with a smile. Oh, also, could you marry my daughter? Thank you.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
well, like after right. Anyway, so doesn't ask too many questions. So Octavian was really good at finding these people who didn't ask questions, who just were
Mhm,
yes men and did what he wanted.
mhm.
Um, so they end up defeating Antony at the Battle of Actium, and despite making it sound like immediately after they killed themselves, there's a whole year in between that. And they
Yeah,
have that's the whole thing. So so then now there's no one challenging him,
right,
and he's left as the absolute undisputed winner.
right, right.
And so Octavian goes before the Senate and orchestrates this political theater piece where he pretends to restore the Republic by
Mhm.
giving up his emergency powers.
Right.
And the Senate, knowing he still has all the stabby bits, beg him to stay in charge of the military and grant him the honorific title Augustus or Revered One.
That we
It's all
named
shit,
after. Yeah, yeah. It's totally. Yeah. Come on now.
right?
Yeah. Give me a
Um,
break. And that's like something they do throughout the, whole empire is like, well, I'm gonna restore the Republic. They all like say that. It's like, no, you're not. Shut up.
sometimes it is. It does like try to like they kind of did that like with like Amadeus at one point. They thought they could do that with like
It's
we'll
they thought they
get on board.
could.
And it's like, well,
Yeah.
they do that. They do it again every
Yeah.
time. They're like, we can control this young buck and get him to do
Right.
what we want, and then we'll become powerful again. It's like, no, you won't, bitch.
Yeah.
They've done it like 8 times anyway.
Right.
So whatever. Even the dumb ones, like like a Commodus was not smart, and yet
No.
if you got tricked, if it didn't work with him, what was your hope ever? Anyway,
Right. Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
But anyway, so but that's what all these old white dudes think that they can do. So anyway, he ends up, getting these titles and shit. Then he does in 23 BCE the second settlement, right? So at this point, if you're keeping track, it's not quite 10 years since he's like off to Antony, right? So it's like 7 years in. He resigns the office of consul, but receives like the tribunica potestas, or like tribunical power, giving him veto power over any law and the right to speak first in the Senate alongside Imperium Maius, or the supreme military commander. So he's now accumulating multiple titles,
Right.
including ones that technically shouldn't go to him.
Right. But all of those like negate what a console would be. You know what I mean?
Consuls typically, and I'm a little rusty, it gets complicated. But consuls usually had to come from at least some kind of like aristocratic family, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
even if it was like
Like gutting the office itself, basically. Like I resigned from it, but I got all these other titles that make me better than them. You know what I
right,
mean?
but like the tribunes, so that would be like your patrician families, whereas the
Right.
tribunes were supposed to come from the plebs, the regulars.
Hmm.
And he's definitely not a regular, right? He
No.
comes from the Julian dynasty,
Right.
descended from Aphrodite.
Yeah.
Like, all right. That's why you had Caesar running around with his red kinky boots. Like,
Right.
that's right. So, we have a thing on our. We always imagine like Caesar with like those red, like a red thigh high, but it's
Yeah.
like a Rocky Horror moment. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
it's
for sure. For sure.
it's ridiculous. We're ridiculous. But anyway, so um, you got so this marks an official transition from like to the Principate empire. He never calls himself a king or a dictator, right?
Hmm.
No kings in Rome.
Yeah, those are terms that already carry weight.
Yeah,
You can't use those. You know.
and I would dare say it would have been better if he had been a king, because the kind of powers he's got now far exceed that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there's right. So he uses the title princeps, or first citizen, right?
Yeah. Yeah, sounds like
He,
some Animal Farm crazy shit.
right. And the institutions of the Republic, such as Senate, councils, and assemblies, still exist, but they're all hollowed out, right? They're yes men. They are there to rubber stamp his agendas, the courts, all of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Augustus holds the real power, though. Um,
Hmm.
so then you've got the quote unquote Pax Romana, or Roman peace.
Right. Right.
So Augustus uses Egypt's massive wealth, because he has officially colonized and taken that over and made that his own personal. Essentially, like, he can utilize all that wealth for his own person in the imperial family's
Right.
personal wealth, right? It's kind of like
Right.
Venezuela. I'm just going to throw that out there, and like how Trump decided he's going to personally take
Yeah.
control of all the oil.
Yeah. Or the Congo.
Right.
You know.
And he even played around with calling himself president of Venezuela.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, somebody like made that true, I guess, on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
So.
It's just like one of those things. It's like, but like he is doing some of that. It's just like we will say it in everything but name,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, and he is it's funny because like Trump's appointing like people to run that for him, right?
Yeah.
And then like Rome did that with Egypt. Like the only person who could be a governor, quote unquote, of like Egypt was someone
Yeah.
he handpicked.
Yeah. Marco Rubio.
Right. Is in Egypt doling out the
Yeah.
grain. And saying yes, sir. And who's not
Yeah.
real. There are always people like these emperors would pick were like they were smart, they were good, but not charismatic enough to ever usurp.
Right. Right.
Right.
Like Marco Rubio. Or
So,
JD Vance.
right. like people who maybe have a little bit of a tarnished reputation.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, hmm
They go
so
running.
who don't have the same charisma.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So you've got that. And this is paying for his armies and this and secures the loyalty of like the Roman plebs with like bread, quote unquote bread circuses, right?
Hmm.
Keep them
Right.
entertained. Have a UFC fight in your back lawn,
Yep,
which
yep.
is only the wealthy can actually watch it, like front row,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But
And I think isn't it also like pay-per-view? So like,
nice. I love that
I don't
we.
know.
It's cool that we get to live in that time period for ourselves.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
crazy. So,
It's yeah, yeah. We're
uh,
witnessing something. Uh,
he also does
you
this.
know.
He does this like fun thing where he establishes Rome's first permanent, quote unquote, permanent professional standing army, the Praetorian Guard. Essentially, these are people who were madly loyal to him
Hmm.
that did not exist before, right? Like kind of they existed before, but they never had like this kind of office, and
Right,
their roles ended up not only expanding but taking over other roles within the government that were already there, roles
right,
that maybe had pushed back.
right.
So the
Yeah,
Praetorian Guard was ICE.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Well, I
sort
mean,
of.
he doesn't want what happened to Julius Caesar to happen to him, so he's
Yeah.
doing that. I mean,
I
same
don't
thing
know.
with like you know, the Secret Service sort of begins
Yeah.
to protect the president personally after,
Yes.
after
It's
Lincoln
a
and then Garfield, you know.
yeah. It's not like 100% great like one-on-one comparison, but it's like it's
No,
yeah.
no, no, no. But
And like
I
I
mean, the rationale is at least the same. Of like, I don't want the same thing. We don't want that
these
happen again.
are only really loyal to me, right?
Right,
I would
right.
say that like really, if we want a good comparison for like modern day ice, like look at the brown shirts.
Sure, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Mega
they're there to sort of do his bidding, right?
until eventually you'll get in a if it continues like an official military branch like that like in the
Mhm.
army that actually like when they actually start to fall in line, then you'll have like an SS. But hopefully we won't get there, right?
Hopefully, hopefully. But yeah, the Praetorians end up kind of doing their own thing, you
Yeah.
know.
Sure.
So
They help with that process. It
yeah,
all ends up
yeah,
spiraling. So anyway,
yep,
um, but supposedly this Roman peace lasts about 200 years, right? Which it's kind of bullshit.
yeah,
Um, because of the amount of wars he does start, including in Germania, which ends up blowing up in his face, and
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
yeah, you said you wouldn't start wars, but you are.
Here you
You
are.
are. And it's
Yeah,
like he goes like, I have closed the doors to Janus's temple more times than anyone else, which was also like what you did. You opened the doors anytime there was war, right?
yeah, right,
And
right.
you're right. You closed it like 3 times, and each time it was like for 2 days.
Yeah, no one's seen anything like it. Everyone says how great it is.
Correct. It's exactly, and it's really wild.
Everyone's talking about how great it is. What a good job we did.
Mm,
So great.
yep. And it's scary. So, um, so by 14 CE, Augustus decides to politely kick the bucket. Also,
Yeah.
fun fact: Augustus got out of his military shit
Mhm.
with illness. He was
Were they
to a
bone
battle.
spurs?
No, it wasn't Dunkers, but it'd be something like that. It'd be like, I'm sick.
Yeah, yeah.
Like one time he did that though, and like this whole army like charged his tent. It was like,
They're
oh
like,
my god!
no, you're not
Like
sitting inside again.
it's like, but like that's before he got Agrippa. And then once he
Right,
finally got like Agrippa, it's like, okay, I can just send this guy. My meat can take care of this.
right,
And I'll stay
right.
here at home. So I just found that really funny. I was just like, he
Yeah,
also got out of his military duty by claiming he wasn't feeling
that's
good.
funny. Yeah.
Uh, multiple times. So, oh. Um, so anyway, he does die. But he spent decades, right? He started at 19 with this shit.
Right, right.
19. And he spends decades
Yeah.
framing his rule as like temporary position for first citizen rather than like being a king or a monarch. It's not a king,
Yeah. No. But he
but
dies
also
like he's old when he dies too.
75's old period. But what's great is his
Yeah.
wife outlived him
Oh yeah,
for a
Olivia. Yeah.
while. Livia's a
Yeah.
fascinating story.
She really is.
Um, and like it's funny
I
because
I
like he,
I was just gonna say I kind of wish it was the Robert Graves version, the I Claudius version.
yeah,
Uh, I wish, but it's not. It's not the case.
no. And the thing is like so. Livia herself is really interesting, and there is some weird like parallels I notice with her too. And we're going to get into it in a bit with the Lex Julia that he puts through these like morality laws and how women are being treated, right? But like
Right.
like his whole thing is like women should be at home making babies. Livia does none of that.
No. No.
Yet she is still framed as being like this awesome Roman woman. I'm not saying she
Right.
wasn't, like, but like it's interesting because we also have like that kind of going on.
Right. Right.
It's just interesting. Um
She's
with
kind of
that.
framed as like a trad wife. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's like, oh, look at her. She does her own knit, like, her own, she jars her own sauce and
Yeah.
stuff. And like when people would come over, they would see her doing it. And it was like actually
Right.
the servants who prepped it. And
Right.
like
Right.
her,
Right.
like her needlework was out. And it's like, oh, look at me doing my needlework. And it
Yeah.
was literally
Yeah.
being, no, like she's not doing any of this shit, but it has to look that way.
Exactly. Exactly.
I find it funny, but like she's also like women shouldn't be running businesses. She has like whole industries, like
Yeah.
that she makes
Yeah.
money, which are like okay. I mean, like I'm like it's real. It makes me uncomfortable because part of me wants to be like, you get that girl, but then like also I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, but it's like on the backs of
Well, it's kind of cynical, you know what I
oh,
mean? To like
oh,
to like to like pay that sort of thing lip service and then turn around and do the opposite simply because it's like, wow, fuck it, like I'm getting mine, It's
yeah.
like okay, I get it, go for it, but like you don't have any integrity, you know what I mean?
No, it's just she's just fascinating,
Yeah.
and she does more than just uphold the status quo. Like,
Yeah.
like she expands on it,
Yeah. Yeah.
she and it's complicated.
Yeah.
So, like essentially, like
Well, just like
so.
defining what a Roman is, and like going into all of that, you know, sort of trying to put that culture war to bed, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
In its own way. Uh, it's interesting, because Mao does a similar thing, but
Hmm.
he does it the opposite way, you know,
Yeah,
by
uh,
handing power to his people. It's like, oh, okay, you
yeah,
know,
but like it's interesting, like because like only to certain people who agree with his views, like whether those views are right or wrong, that's a whole different thing. But
oh,
like, yeah, it's but like,
well,
and we
well,
talked about that,
the,
but
well, yeah, and sort of the I guess genius behind Mao's decision to do that is that whoever comes out on top is now on his side. You know what I mean? Like you're almost whoever wins, you said, "See, I was right all along." It doesn't really matter who wins or who is right or any of that. You know what I mean?
right. And so, like, when it comes to Rome, like, when did like Republic end and like Empire begin? I mean, you can put a hard
Oof.
date on it, but I feel like as we've discussed this, it kind of like Rome as a republic was already dead
Yeah. Well,
or
and
died.
yeah, and
It was,
like they call it like the late Republican era. So
mhm,
like it was so different from the other parts that even historians recognize that whatever it was that died, you know what I
yeah,
mean, was
I-
already dying, you know.
yeah.
So
It was
like
like,
I don't know, like what part of the Republic, you know what I
yeah.
mean?
I mean, my first thought is like when they fled when Caesar came into town and
Uh-huh.
abandoned the city, abandoned the people,
Right. Yeah, that's a good put. That's definitely a
came
good
back,
place.
but it was never going to be the same. You
Right.
lost trust. You lost the literal treasury. You know, like, and at this point, you coming back was conditional
Yeah. Yeah.
with one man.
Right. Right.
So like, I think that to me is kind of like when like, and again, it's just a piece because technically it was still there, and the Republic technically was still there right till the bitter
Right.
end. Technically,
Right. Technically, yeah, totally.
technically. So it's like, when did it die? I would say like it is broad, but definitely I would say like it was for sure dead by the time Augustus was dead.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Um,
Um,
I mean, yeah, I mean, this is such a cop out answer, but it's somewhere between Sulla and Julius
yeah,
Caesar. You know, is
yeah,
what it. If you ask me, because
yeah.
like you said earlier, like I don't know if Julius Caesar maybe would have had the cojones to do what he
Yeah,
did, if not for
for
the. He's like,
Sulla.
wait a minute, Sulla did this. I'm gonna be like that. You know what
Well,
I
like
mean?
he wanted to be more like Marius, but yes, he also looked at Sulla and was like, "Oh, but
Yeah.
like you can like totally walk. Like, why can't I walk in with my army?"
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. He ultimately wanted to be who he wanted to be, but like, I'm just
yeah,
saying that, like, you know, crossing the Rubicon, that wasn't
yeah,
without precedent. You know what I mean?
yeah. Like, right, and that's why it's like I would say the only part about that was maybe unprecedented was that technically, like he was like warrant for his arrest, versus
Mhm.
Sulla didn't have like a warrant, like Sulla
Right,
just
right.
decided to do it. But like technically, like Caesar was like wanted, like
Sure.
he didn't
I'm
have
well,
rights
like, I
at this
mean,
point.
but like the craziest part about both of those guys is bringing and having the audacity to bring an army into Rome. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And like I feel like that's the focal point, of
yeah,
especially Sulla. You know what I mean?
mhm,
And so it's like, if we're gonna talk about at least a big death nail, you know what I mean, is setting any kind of precedent of bringing an army into Rome.
right.
You know what I mean? Uh, it's like, well,
But,
I mean, in a republic, that's never supposed to happen. You know?
well, it's also like in their moment, right? Like
Yeah.
that is something that's like there's nothing technically stopping you from it,
Yeah.
but you just don't do it. It's the honor code, bro. Like
Yeah.
when no one's tested it, we haven't needed to test it.
Right. Right.
It's
Well, like,
and like
you know, well, what about like Doctor Strangelove? You know what I
right,
mean? Like some people working in the government walked out of that horrified because they were like, I mean, these people in our government, they are the law. You know
right.
what I mean?
And you look at
Like,
like something like the impeachment process with us, right? It's in theory,
yeah,
right? If you
yeah,
it kind of started with like he just kind of was like, all right, they started it or what I'm just gonna bounce. It's cool.
right,
But
right,
then like Clinton where it actually kind of went through and like
right,
right. And then by the time you get to Trump, I'm like, even if they had impeached him, like, what are they
yeah,
gonna do? He's already
right.
like proven like it's an honor code, bro.
It is. Well, and like what Andrew Jackson said, when the Senate had to stop him, and he's like, well, the Senate doesn't control the army. I do. Let them, let them see
Correct.
it and let them
And
see
you're
them
seeing
enforce
that
it.
in the
You know.
teen amount of presidents, like
Yeah.
early on, like our republic hadn't even been around for 100 years.
No,
Like,
no, and we already have that type of shit being
he's
talked
like one of
about.
the first ones to wear pants.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm like we're in it early, and like we're already having some of those
Yeah, I mean,
problems.
he was a child. He fought in the American Revolution. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So like, it happens right away. In our country.
Right. And so, God, I gotta do something about him so that anyway. But yeah, so like it's just that's the point. Like when it's an honor system, but you don't really have a way to actually enforce it.
Right.
Like there's a
Right.
point where you become so powerful or so rich in our particular kind of society, right? That you are above the law, even if the law isn't forced on you, that doesn't affect you.
It doesn't affect
Like
you.
they came up
Yeah.
with his fence,
Yeah.
you know, they could charge him. I think what's the fine, like 2 grand a month
Hmm.
for his like too tall fence that is
Right. Right.
outrageously above the limit, and he
Right.
makes that money in 2 seconds.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Right,
It just simply doesn't matter. You know what I
right.
mean?
I literally
Like,
can do this illegal thing and pay the price
yeah,
in two
it doesn't
seconds.
affect me. Yeah, it doesn't affect me.
Versus you or I would walk us over.
Oh yeah.
Like
We wouldn't
right.
get anywhere close to that. Like we wouldn't begin to do it. You know what I mean?
And it's a
Uh,
great metaphor for like what's been going on here in this country.
yeah,
And this is what was going on with these people as well.
yeah. And
Oh,
some people, again, that are critical of this type of government say that it has a natural inclination
hmm.
towards this type of end. You know what I mean? Um, I really hope that's not true.
I
you
hope it's
know,
not. I hope it's not. It's unfortunate how
I hope
often these
cooler
things are
heads
happening over
prevail.
and over again, though, in history, and especially when we modeled our government based off of some. And it's is it to me super surprising that the endings are coming out similar?
Right. Well, and
No,
we don't necessarily know that it's ending right now.
no, we don't.
And,
To be fair, that's true.
and we
I
do
don't know.
have evolving
Hmm.
documents. We do have certain things, like
Hmm.
that they didn't have, and hopefully, something like this will be a test for our system. Because like hopefully the system works. Hopefully it's been perfected enough to
Hmm.
withstand something like this.
Well,
And it'll just take all of us normal people that really have no say in it to hold our breath and see if that's true or not. you know?
right. And the other thing too is like Augustus is coming in at the scene at 19 and in his 20s starting these kinds of things.
Mhm.
30s coming in starting these kinds of things. He has a good old like 60, 50 to 60 years to work on it.
This is true. This is true.
He's not coming in his late 70s.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, and that's pretty unheard of in our day and age.
So like there is like an expiration date, if nothing else. And
Yeah,
like I don't like but like at
yeah,
the same time, a lot of these things that we're talking about that happened over the course of generations
right,
are happening much more quickly. And that's here.
right.
And that's partially
Well, and
because
that's
of
uh,
modern technology and things like that
yeah,
that don't and how word spreads now versus then.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
just the size of it.
Yeah, and I
But
think in the age of information, we'll definitely see it happen faster. Whatever does happen, it'll happen faster. But I also think maybe this is the optimist in me, but I think that because of the age of information, it gives more chance than we've ever had to have cooler heads prevail.
yeah.
Now, I realize that's betting a whole hell of a lot on the overall goodness of uh, mankind and ultimately mob mentality. Um, but I want to try to be optimistic about it, I
Well,
guess.
I think the other thing is that like if we're comparing, which no one should ever really do, like there are similarities. They are people are inspired by these things. Let's not get it
Right.
twisted. But like
Well, and you're
it's
trying
never,
to learn from the past, right?
yeah.
Like
But
anytime you're trying to learn.
it's not 100% a tit for tat, right? Like,
No,
of
no,
course
no.
not. There's cultural time, like differences, time, whatever, right? But like, say we were comparing it to like Mussolini's Italy or Hitler's Germany, right?
Right.
It didn't end well for them.
No, no.
People united, the world, people in this world came together and said, no, enough,
Right. Right.
right? And they did prevail. And then those people who were remaining, some of them were jackasses who were never really on anyone's side, but also
Mhm.
stood and watched terrible things happen. But like,
Right.
there were also plenty of good people who managed to somehow somehow survive it and came back and said we need to do better.
Right. Right. And
Like we
I
don't need to be
yeah,
an empire. We don't. It wasn't the end of the world when we were no longer an empire. We can thrive. We can be good people.
right.
We can do better.
Right.
So I
Right.
hope that's the case.
Yeah.
Um,
I just hope that the with the internet and everything, it's changed everything so profoundly that I hope that maybe, hopefully, it'll be easier for
yeah.
not everyone, but for a majority of people to see through uh, propaganda, I guess, for lack of a
And
better term.
my biggest hope is like the change happens internally. It
Yeah,
we can't if it happens externally, it's going to be devastating
yeah,
because at the end of the day, Nazi Germany and Italy, like they had some colonial holdings and stuff like that, but like not like us right
right,
now. If
right.
something this whatever happens, then that's part of the problem with the United States is whatever happens here, any kind of instability does affect the world.
Oh,
And it's not
yes.
because I think that it's I don't want to be like that American who thinks like the whole world revolves around us, but is because of how many fingers and how many pots, how much influence and control we've forced ourselves into. There's not a part of this planet where like you can be like, oh, like America has no say or power here,
Right, right.
with the exception of like maybe like China or like Russia, right? Which, but like
Yeah,
so many places, and
yeah.
whether economic or political, right?
Well,
It's
and
because like,
even like locked off governments like North Korea, or whatever. I mean, they are that way because there's the United States out there. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Um, I'm not trying to defend any of that. I'm just saying that, what do you count as influence? Like
right.
they're a
Well,
certain way
yeah.
because of well, who they got to deal with. You know what I mean?
Well, it's when we think about like NATO, right? It's why it's
Mhm.
such a big deal. If he because he's always flirting with that, like, well, I'll just step out. It
Right.
is a big deal
It is a big
because
deal.
it could totally destabilizes most of the Western world,
Hmm.
like which then destabilizes like it costs so much. Like the comments about Taiwan recently,
Oh yeah.
wild, could
Yeah.
like world changing implications. And it's
Yeah.
like we've inserted ourselves in those positions, asserted those spots
Right.
with the idea of like, well, we're stable, you'll always be able to rely on us, and not really giving them a choice. Because
Right.
like at the end of World War II, everyone was devastated because they had
Right.
just finished that one after they had just finished World War One. They were just recovering from that. So like they relied on us. What else are you gonna do? And
Yeah.
it's like, and it
We're
did
not
work.
communists. Want to help us? We're like, yes, yes, as long as you're not communists.
Right. And it's like one of those things, and we were until we
Yeah.
weren't. But now
Yeah.
it's so deeply entrenched, right? And Rome did this as well. When
Hmm.
Rome collapsed, even though it wasn't overnight, when it did, and when those parts would break off, it was always chaotic and disruptive in those regions. And of course,
Oh yeah.
they
Oh yeah.
recovered. It takes
Hmm.
generations.
Right.
And we're like making this times 100.
Oh yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
it
This
needs
will disrupt global. You know, there's global implications.
yeah, and
For it.
it's so big, and it's not my like I am
Yeah.
not no, but like I can tell you, I don't know what the end of that tunnel looks like, you
No.
know.
No idea. No
But
idea.
like, who in 1,000 years ends up becoming the world power? But like,
Yeah.
it'd be unpredictable at that point. But like, I for our sake as well as many people throughout the world, I hope we can resolve this internally.
I agree. I
So,
absolutely agree. Yeah. The
even if that,
revolution will not be televised. You got to change your insides first, your heart first.
um, so some other things we could talk about, right? Um, there's this whole concept within Rome that's going on at this time, right? I like to call it "Make Rome Great Again" because it's the same writer.
Yeah.
Okay. This idea of going back to the good old days, the fact that he is an emperor,
Right.
right? Um, but it's like go back, like remember when, and Sulla did this too, right? Like remember when we didn't have these peasants who influenced our politics, and it was just these good old families, and everyone got along, and you had these like gentlemen farmers and shit, and like none of that happened, right?
Right. Right.
Um, like you could look at the propaganda war. This is like case in point, right? Like we talked about
Hmm.
this, like that bitch Cleopatra is changing our way of life. We're letting these outside forces, which we are actually influencing, right? We're
Hmm.
totally upsetting their governments and whatever for our purposes. But God forbid they resist or they immigrate in, right? Because we literally invited them in because they brought commerce. Um, and we were doing well and told them that they should come in and take advantage because they're cheaper labor. Um, like we have this like movement happening where like Octavian at the time goes like we need to resist and go back to what really means to be a Roman, right?
Hmm. Right.
Um,
And defining that.
right. Um, and it was supposed to bring, like I said earlier, this like Roman peace where he closes the doors of Janus like 3 times for like a week. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so again, like it's interesting, like that parallel that we see.
Hmm.
It's not. It's a rhetoric. I feel like it feels like nationalism, right? It is where this rhetoric usually comes from and is pointed to.
Yeah. But
But
it's like a cultural
yeah,
nationalism in a way. But it's tied to nationalism too. You know what I mean?
interesting because like in my stud, like like courses and stuff, it was always painted roughly as like this is a very modern sentiment, like
Hmm.
this idea of like xenophobia and stuff, and like this like
Right.
because it comes with nationalism, right, and like this
Right.
codifying of what an people and culture should be based off borders. And
Right.
yet we see it happening in Rome when
Right.
it shouldn't be happening in theory.
Yeah. I mean, defining what like doing all of those things. Like, I mean, it is that without calling it that. Because they didn't call it that yet. I'll give it to you there, but it's like no, that it's a very human thing, I think,
Hmm.
to go, we are exceptional. Us here, we're exceptional. And
Right.
those people over there, they are not like us. And that makes them less than exceptional. And then you can go further down that line, or
Hmm.
or not, but that's the point. Is that that's always going to be in the human lexicon. Like, I get why historians might say, yeah, you don't really compare the two. And it's like, I get it. I totally get it. But what we're talking about
Hmm.
is, you know, that in essence, not necessarily, they're not necessarily all waving flags, but
Right. No, and like Rome didn't necessarily have nation the way we think, but like they definitely like we saw that with like the social wars, right? Which was like you're not Roman enough to
right,
be a
right,
citizen. When
right.
literally culturally they're pretty identical at that point,
Hmm.
like like the Latins are speaking, everyone's speaking Latin, like you're
Yeah,
not right. So, but yet you saw this, like we're the true Americans, right?
right,
Like,
right.
sorry, Romans. I actually did slip on that one. That was not
Yeah.
intentional. But you do see that. Um, so another question I have for you, like, how do you think people were brought on board, right? Like, when you think about Caesar and stuff, I think it's easy because he's promising them these things, right? And he does follow
Yeah.
through. But like Augustus doesn't really do that. So how is he able to keep them on board when
Well,
they seem to be taking their rights away?
I, you know, it, it's always going to be I think it's always going to be a question, and I think it has to do with sort of the zeitgeist of the time of the people that
Mhm.
are living there. and are witnessing what's happening. Sometimes, if you've been witnessing a lot of violence or whatever, if somebody says I'm going to make it go away and everyone's going to listen to me and no one's going to fuck with you anymore, sounds really good, and you'll do whatever it takes to get out of that.
Yeah.
And it's hard to blame people that do that. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I don't care who the hell you are. I don't care what's going on. But if you can make this stop, you know, I'm down with that. You
Yeah.
know, I think a lot of history boils down to that. Like why did people let this happen? And it's like whether it was true or not. You know what I mean? Like sometimes they'll make up a boogeyman that doesn't really exist, and they're
Yeah.
like, well, if you can make them stop, then I'm with you.
Hmm.
Or sometimes it's very much real. Like what these people were dealing with. Uh, they just didn't want it anymore. They were tired of it.
Yeah, people were hungry. People were
Yeah,
dying in conflicts that they didn't sign up for. Like all those, and like that's
yeah,
something like prices were going up. You couldn't afford
yeah,
a home. Like it's like things your parents could do or your grandparents could do, you can't do, right? And it's like this
yeah.
person willing, like, hey, and like in some cases, it's like you're saying, like it's their fault. If we can get rid of them, we can get back to that.
Right.
Um,
Well,
it's
and
because it's
not even. I
influence.
wouldn't even really totally go that far. Like that's usually like a component with that. But I'm just saying that like people across that border, even if
Yeah,
they're fucking with us, if they're not fucking with us, whatever, but they are not us,
yeah,
and so therefore they are less exceptional than us. It
yeah,
makes it easier to kill them, yes, if you do that. But just simply doing that alone, othering someone, um,
yeah.
you know,
Well, like you saw, like with Augustus, like he's doing that with like Cleopatra. It's like it's her
oh,
fault.
oh yeah,
Like in her cult, like these Eastern influences are permeating
yeah,
our culture. Look what they did to our boy Caesar. Look what's happening to Mark Antony. We have
right,
to get rid of these elements and all that, in order to do that. But like also like and that's more tactile for some of like the upper echelons. But
right.
like what's more tactile for the lower classes, right? All
Well,
these people have experienced this war
well,
and conflict
that's kind
in
of
the streets.
yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to get
What?
at. Is that no, we won't call it xenophobia or whatever. There's things that go with that,
Mm-hmm,
but ideas of a firm cultural identity that is
mm-hmm.
exclusive. You know, I just think is very human.
Yeah,
Call it whatever you want to call it, but it's definitely a component of xenophobia and of nationalism. You know what I mean? And that's usually where we see it now. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Well, because we have those harder literal borders now, but
Right, right.
it's like a lot of old maps you'll see is just like gradients. It's like this is roughly like their territories. It's because
Yeah,
there was like
yeah,
one actually going out there and laying down lines or nothing. Um,
yeah.
and they like on a day-to-day basis they were changing, like
Hmm.
it's so on those like edges. But yeah, I think that's just it's something it's interesting too. Like this is just a universal experience. Like you've got we can understand maybe why people made the decisions they did, especially lower classes, right? Like we were talking
Hmm.
about earlier, like what would we do if we were there, right?
Right.
You know, people, well, you're starving, or not even
Hmm.
starving so much, just like it's harder to get food. You remember a
Yeah,
time when it wasn't as hard, and you know that maybe your parents or whoever definitely didn't have a hard time doing this, and it
yeah.
seems like things are getting worse. Um, and just knowing that we want it to change and be better.
Right, right.
That's universal. It
Yes.
is sad that we are still trying to figure that out. But
Yeah,
there we are.
and there's never the thing that's also very human is there's never a good answer. You know what I mean?
No,
And
otherwise we wouldn't do it.
no one is going to have a
No,
fix all answer ever. That's never going to be a thing. Anyone that
right.
claims to is a demagogue. Is like some of the people we're talking about here. You
Correct.
know what I mean? It's all in effort to manipulate you into thinking that you're good and it's all over. Now,
Yeah.
maybe that's okay. Maybe that's enough. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like being aware of the matrix, but choosing to stay inside of it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Maybe just believing that it's better is enough. I don't know. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's and like if we did, we wouldn't be here. So,
Right, right,
um,
right.
so like shifting a little bit now, right? Like, we've talked a lot about like just kind of like some of the more legal stuff. Um, and I think that's something that often gets overlooked when people talk about Augustus, whether it's a classroom or whatever, is exactly what, and honestly, just this time period in general is like what women are up to, right?
Mhm,
Partially
mhm,
that's because of the nature of Rome, right?
right.
But like a lot of the things that we are still struggling with today when it comes to sexuality
Yeah,
and gender roles, all that really not only come from Rome, but really we have to thank him for this.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so
We're still dealing with leftover,
right.
more Roman, uh, yeah, ridiculousness. Women can't lead. There's your best. That's still alive and well with us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like he's not unique. Like Athens was, but
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
let's let's talk about the Lex Julia. So these are most of the time when you hear about the Lex Julia, they're not referring to Caesar, though his were also called Lex Julia. This was a different thing. So the Lex Julia essentially were laws that Augustus had launched as a massive social and moral crusade, attempting to rebuild traditional Roman family values after decades of civil war. At least that's how he's painting it, right? Like that these
That's how he
family
sells it.
values have fallen apart because of the civil wars. Um, so one of the things he did was criminalize adultery. Now, don't get it twisted. It's not really for men. Men can still adulter.
Right.
Um, women definitely cannot though.
Yeah.
So the thing was up until this point, it was always bad. It was always way worse for the woman, right? Guys could kind of do whoever they wanted as long as they weren't a married woman, right?
Right.
But guys typically just maybe got exiled,
Hmm.
maybe. Women could get killed.
Right.
But
And it's usually, only bad things happen to you, if
Mhm.
you did that as well. You know what I mean? It's like you were already a pain in the ass, and then you did this. You're sort
Right.
of giving me an excuse to banish you, you know?
Like women could get killed, but it was all considered like what you do behind closed doors, none of our business.
Hmm.
So if you get married to a woman, fun, good for you. You do get one free kill.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
Yeah. I mean, you get a hall pass, you can kill her. You can't kill her twice, I guess. So, but you could
Yeah.
always kill her if and just say adultery. Anyway, but what you actually see a lot of time before this period was that not only did women adulter, like so did dudes, and it was mute consensual for both ends. Whether it's because they had to get together. A lot of these times, like these families were getting together, they have to produce an heir. They did their job. Now go live your separate lives, and it was all consensual,
Mhm.
right? And he could do the dudes or girls that he wanted to do, and she could do the dudes or girls she wanted to do, right? Another thing you saw too was sometimes both the husband and the wife used sex to climb the political ladder. He would sleep
Mhm.
with the right people, she would sleep with the right people, all to like get their unit up that ladder, right?
Right.
It's weaponizing the sex for political gain, right? But they
Right.
know they both know what they're doing, right? So
Hmm.
like a husband also in theory could divorce his wife if he found out she had committed adultery, but a lot of them didn't,
Hmm.
right? Which is kind of a hint towards that.
Right.
Essentially, what it was is like pretty much it's like on a social level, it was frowned upon, it was bad, right? But no, there's no legal precedent, right? It's your
Uh-huh.
choice as the man, I guess.
Right. Right. No, yeah, the moral laws were uh astoundingly stupid,
Mhm.
to our modern
But
eyes.
this is where it seems that way, but we'll get there because we're having those problems now too.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it's starting to look like the Handmaid's Tale out here.
correct. So this is where he made it like he was all up in their bedrooms. This so now instead of it just being like a private family matter, now it's the law. It's an actual crime with
Right.
consequences. And men were legally required to divorce unfaithful wives,
Hmm.
and the guilty parties were banished to separate islands.
Hmm.
Now, if so, if you were caught sleeping with someone else's wife, not only is she, at least I guess she's not getting killed. The
I
bar sometimes,
guess.
but she's usually on starvation island. It's not great for her. Especially when
I
women
mean,
rely on in this system where they're forced to rely, and it's more and more with him too, forced to rely on these male roles for security and financial
mhm,
security with no legal way of making their own money.
right,
Right. And then
right,
but you also, as the person who slept with her, also get kicked to another island. So before, you wouldn't have been punished at all.
right,
Maybe
right.
maybe banishment, but you'll come back. Like Caesar did it all the time. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Augustus was doing it too. But we didn't talk about it.
right.
So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's
that's an unfortunate, you know, sort of reality, for thee, not for me, sort of thing that we still deal with.
hmm so another thing that becomes interesting with this is the marriage mandate. This is the one like where these next couple ones are kind of like big red flags. So something interesting to keep in mind that's going on right now, Project 2026, one of the big things that they're pushing for is like these like marriage boot camps.
Ugh. I don't like that.
Oh
I
no.
don't like that at all.
Well, they try to model it as being like, well, if you're it's for young people who, want to get married, blah blah blah. All right, if young people want to get married, they're going to get married. There's nothing stopping them. So who are these
Hmm.
camps really for?
Uh, yeah.
People, me, first of all, who are not
Right.
married to the right gender.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
so
it's funny they called it a camp. You know what I mean?
it's a
It's like, no, it's
boot
a
camp.
camp. It's like, wait a minute, I've seen this one before.
No offense, and anytime you hear camp,
Yeah. It's like I'm out. Yeah.
like
If you're
far
over the
right,
age of 13,
don't do it. It's
yeah.
not great. Uh, we don't like camps,
Yeah. No.
especially when they're about our faith or what we do with our bodies.
Yeah.
So, yep. And then like you get to graduate potentially, right?
Of course.
So the whole reason I bring this up, right? And then like there's also been like things tossed around about like the more kids you have, the more privileges you can have, tax write-offs to the point where you may not have to pay taxes after a certain amount of kids. Fun fact, Hitler
Right.
did this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
before
Need more
Hitler,
soldiers to go die in foreign wars.
well, like giving like women honors, like
Yeah.
medals
Oh yeah.
for
Yeah.
having enough,
Yeah.
right?
The ideal Nazi woman, produced a
Yeah,
kid and she get a
right,
little ribbon and a medal.
right. The cross.
Does it
Yeah,
make you
it
feel
was
good?
it was the
Yeah.
Mary cross. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're trying to implement that here.
Yeah. They'll give you a little medal, guys. It's totally worth it.
Right. So in Rome, you have these marriage mandates that he's doing, and this was to force upper class Romans to marry, right?
Hmm.
Um, which is interesting because bachelorhood was at one point almost kind of like considered this honored thing, like, oh, you're old man who didn't get married and just focused on his career. That was applauded, right?
Yeah.
Because you were essentially putting the Roman state above like your carnal needs.
Hmm.
No more. No more of that, because we don't need any more political ambitious men. Thank you very much. What we do
Right.
need is like we don't have enough Roman babies.
Yeah.
There are populations in decline, guys.
Yeah. And how are we gonna, go to war with someone if
Right.
we don't have any soldiers? You know?
But it's the right people having the right babies, specifically these upper class families, right? The people
Yeah.
that we like. So, also, spinsterhood was all these people who were bachelors or spinsters, right? Beyond like the age of, if you weren't married by like the age of like 25, I think it was something like that, you start getting taxed more and more heavily.
Hmm.
And then there's a certain point where unmarried citizens were banned from receiving inheritance, or attending any of the public games. So now you're being ostracized as well,
Right.
legally.
Right.
So that's going on. Um,
Hmm.
then you have the three-child privilege. And this is really unfortunate because this is sometimes used um, as like, oh, it's kind of like feminism from Rome.
Uh,
It's not,
it sounds more like you know, like a trad wife thing. It sounds like something, Erica Kirk would think of. You know what I mean?
because it's
And
really scary because people buy into it though, and they did then
oh
too.
yeah. Yeah.
So it's if you have three children, right? Specifically a boy in the mix somewhere, preferably, right? You have to have a son.
Oh yeah.
That's the caveat. You do have to have a son.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't have three girls. That's gross. Too much estrogen. Um, what are we gonna do with these girls? They all have the same name. For
Yeah.
real. They
Go out
women
for
just for women are hilarious because it's like literally you're named after your dad.
yeah.
All of you. So if you have seven sisters, you're all Antonia.
Yeah. Right.
And it's Antonia one, two, three, four, five.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
crazy.
I mean, yeah, Cleopatra was that way too. You know.
Well, kind of, but like Cleopatra, you did have a couple names that, like, so her sister was not Cleopatra,
Right. Right.
Berenice, like, which that's more kind of like, okay, like all the Williams and Henrys, like, it's like these royals have, like, this is your book of names that's like one page with like six names on it. Pick.
Yeah. Right.
For, for them, it was like you had Cleopatra, Berenice, and Arsinoe.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Ptolemy, well, you get one name.
Right.
There's no other.
Right.
You can have a different middle name, but like that's about it. Um, but so actually, it was better off being a girl there because at least you got three names to pick from.
Yeah. Right.
But like with Roman guys, that you had a couple names to pick from, and like women because they were, it's like to show, oh no, this is the property of their dad, and then their last name when they get one is only when they're married. They don't get a last name until they're married, and
Right.
that's the
Right.
husband's name.
Right. Right.
So they're both marks. You have no
Mhm.
identity. Your identity is the men in your life,
Right.
which is scary. Um,
Yeah. It's a paternalistic society.
you're literally property.
Hmm.
It's and like they weren't even doing that in Egypt,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that was and even then that naming convention was really only reserved for like the royals there. This was just straight up Roman naming convention, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
Poor, rich, didn't matter.
Hmm.
Um, so a lot of like if it seems like oh well they had different names, it's because they went by their middle name
Uh-huh.
if they were or an honorary name or something if they were given that. Like so
Yeah.
Livia came from the Livian family.
Hmm.
Right. Julia came from the Julian Claudia. Like right, it's Claudia from the Claudians. Right.
Right.
It's just like one of those things be careful. Like when you allow even Jane Austen said like like your government starts direct dictating morality, that's when
Yeah.
you have a real problem.
It's
Um,
true. It's definitely true.
revolutionary Jane Austen.
Right.
Um, so it's just it's right. If it's uh, so to wrap this kind of like all up, right? Um, why, like why is Augustus still like talked about in such glowing terms even today? I think part of
Well,
it's
go ahead.
I was gonna say part of it's because he did live so damn long. He could write the
Yeah.
narrative, and he died peacefully.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's Rome into this new golden era, of
Right.
marble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, that he's bringing it into, and he's going to make sure that the books that are being written down look at him in that way. That's like
Yeah.
kind of another thing about the era of information, this time of information, is that like history isn't necessarily written by the victor anymore. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Now new information can come to light, and we can weigh them next to each other. You know what I mean? Which is good, you know. And yeah, I feel like again, everybody compares their time to this time. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And the reason is I think just obvious. And people say like, oh well, you don't want to, you don't want to compare them too much and all that. And
No.
it's like no, no, but they are different. I get that. Uh, but let's look back and try to maybe learn something and be like, well, this is a pitfall of that direction. This is a
Hmm.
pitfall of that direction. Do we have anyone that can sort of figure it out?
Right.
Help us.
Oh, and it's
Can we
so
figure this
easy
out
to write. It's
together?
like, oh, it's so easy to write it off as well. It was a different time. You can't compare. I'm like,
Totally,
you can. First of all, we
totally,
did model our government after theirs because we admired the cultures so much. You
totally,
know, even
totally.
then, those cultures had also developed based off of Roman principles and things that echoed and carried on. Like
Right.
right, like
But
the
we
British
still
Empire.
recognized things that they did that we didn't want to repeat. And it's not like we took everything from
No,
them.
not at
You know what
all.
I mean? It is drastically different. But at the same time, um, when when shit goes wrong and all of us, at least I think smart people, take a look back and they try to figure out like, okay, well, how do we get out of this? Does the past have any clues? You know?
Well,
Um, that's why we do it. You know what I mean? That's why we look back and do this, is to be like,
well,
is there a way out?
my thought is that it's yeah, we didn't model our government per se or politically perfectly after them. Not at all. Like it's different.
No.
Culturally,
Yeah.
we
But like,
emulated the hell
yeah.
out of them.
But I mean,
Like,
that has a lot to do with Catholicism too, and Christianity,
mhm,
and then English
well, the
society,
Enlightenment
and
too. Like,
well,
because the Enlightenment was
yeah,
really picking up these ideas again.
yes,
Um,
yes. There was
about
there
like
was like rediscovery of those things.
right, and like a rediscovery, but also trying to like how can we implement it
Hmm.
into our
Right,
societies,
right,
like in a better way, but like still keeping the
right,
core of it. It's why, like where I live, you have towns like Cato, Cicero, Rome. Oh, like
right.
half the damn
Yeah,
town named after because these were where
yeah,
the founding fathers were,
yeah.
and
The Society of Cincinnatus, and you
they're
know,
trying Cincinnati, right? Like so, they're trying to emulate that.
hmm,
They are, and so it's not a one to one, but like if you're going to emulate your government and your culture after it in a way that because you're admiring it so much, you are going to be prone to some of the same issues,
one
you
hundred
know.
percent. Yes,
And
yes,
um, so with that being said, I also think one of the reasons he was successful was simply just because he didn't necessarily really come into direct conflict with like the regulars so much.
no,
He had
no,
enough time to have a light enough touch
yeah, yeah,
that, and the people he did piss off, he always pissed them off with a plan before he did it.
right, right.
Like
Very
it,
astute in that way.
Like he didn't just go after Mark Antony on a whim. He waited
Yeah.
until he had enough ammunition,
Yeah.
and then he did it.
Yeah.
So I think that was he did. He was not. I will give Augustus that he was not a man prone to whim, and I think
Yeah.
that's
Well,
part of the reason.
and another
He,
reason why we remember him in the Western world um, is that he was the first emperor of the Roman Empire, which is the Great White Empire. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
Even though it wasn't, you know, there were plenty of people that weren't white that were emperors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and plenty of people that didn't conform to the standard Roman identity that were also emperors. You know what I mean? But it just it yeah, it's why we call them the Byzantines instead of the Eastern
Mm-hmm.
Roman Empire. It's because we can't have the Muslims beating Rome and being the final
Right,
death nail in Rome. It has to be Germans that did that. You know what I mean? It
right.
has to be
But
other white people that did that. You know?
meanwhile, like the Ottomans who beat them considered themselves the inheritors of Rome because they had all the
Exactly.
culture, all the texts, had been doing the research
Right.
for a minute, were more advanced, were more
Yeah.
cultured, and all that. But we can't have them be. They're not Roman,
Right.
you know, because they're
Right.
not white.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Um, and I could agree with that. And so to wrap this up, I think it is important that, like, while we have made a lot of comparisons, right,
Hmm.
we are different. And that's where I
Oh
think
yeah.
that message earlier, where I'm more hopeful that we can come to a better result because we
Right.
are not Romans. We don't
Right.
want to be Romans. They aren't here anymore
Right.
for a
Right.
reason.
Yep.
Um, we can be better than them. We can include women. We can include brown people. We can get past class boundaries and try and make things better. We can have discussions that involve different perspectives and not just one set view. Like, and that doesn't make us more divided, it makes us better, right?
Right.
As long as you're
Right.
doing it from a place of respect. And
Right.
I think
That's a
that
can of worms sometimes.
it is. It is because like
Yeah.
that's sometimes used as like, well, my opinion matters, and I think that the white race is that
Right.
no.
Well,
But you
yeah.
said,
Some
no,
somewhere we were like, well, you have to respect people's opinions, and it's like,
no,
no, I don't.
no. You
No, no, I don't.
what I
Fuck that.
believe is that if you are coming from a place that is meant to be respectful,
Right.
right?
Right.
You don't always have the right answer. You may
Right.
accidentally say something that's incorrect or maybe even offensive, and you don't necessarily mean it. But also
Sure.
have
Sure.
because you were under the wrong assumption. But then, like
Sure.
when you realize, oh no,
Hmm.
um, I was misinformed. I'm
Right.
sorry about
Yeah.
that. Does not
Sure.
make you
Yeah.
weak either.
Right. It's kind of like well, if you show me proof of God, I'll change my mind. You know what I mean? Because I'm
Right.
scientific enough, I will
Hmm.
change my mind. You know what I mean? But
Correct.
as long as it doesn't exist, you know, I don't care about your belief. It doesn't mean anything to me. Like whether or not you know what I mean. Don't make laws that involve your God to make me
Hmm.
do something because I don't believe in it, and I don't respect your opinion. Go sit in
Right.
your home and believe it all you want, but I don't respect it, and I don't have
And,
to. you
and I
know.
feel, and as a historian, right, I'm one of those people. Like the one thing I hate hearing more than anything else is like, well, I wasn't taught that in school.
Right. I wasn't taught a lot of things in school.
We I, as a historian, will make mistakes. I am working from English speaking, translated at best
Yep.
works, right? So unless
Yep.
I'm speaking from my actual English speaking culture, something's coming through a lens, and I'm only getting parts of it. And that's not
Right.
including when we don't just uncover new information, period, about time era or Farah, right?
Hmm.
As we get more information, the picture does change because we have a more full picture, and it's okay to have a different opinion. You
One
there
hundred
are
percent.
people in this world who like I was taught a lot of things growing up as well, and it's like in history in particular, like I wasn't taught about the horrible things that Columbus did.
No, no, no. And they
It was
didn't do
all
that for propaganda,
right.
uses. Same reason why Augustus did what he did. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then I learned about those things
Hmm.
and went, oh wow, he's a dirtbag.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
opinion can change. You know, like
yeah.
I mean, it's a drastic
I mean,
example, but like in my
yeah.
own adult life, that has happened. I was ignorant to something because I had just taken it for granted. That's probably what I had been taught as a kid or something. Like Mao
Hmm.
being like a dictator and a
Hmm.
bad person, and then it's like I'm not saying
Right.
he's a good person at all. I'm just saying, oh, there it is way more complicated.
It's way more
Yeah,
complicated than that. Yeah,
and
I
so
mean, propaganda steers us, and uh, yeah, if I'm presented with compelling evidence,
mhm.
absolutely, I would change my mind. I think the
No
truth
one,
is just more important than any political sort of
yeah,
zeitgeist of the time. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I think that you opinions can change. There's
Yes,
and like
and normalize
oh,
changing your mind.
correct. We and like I feel like as long as you're coming from a place where you genuinely want to respect people, right? Not respect people being assholes, right? I'm not saying
Right,
that. Like you don't have to respect like white supremacy. I'm saying like
right,
you if you are trying to conduct yourself in a way that
sure,
keeps other people in mind and being respectful, like that is like the big difference here.
right,
We can
right,
all do that and critically think, you know.
right.
It's
Yeah,
okay to question something. You don't that doesn't mean that your convictions are any less or anything
yeah.
like that.
But
Like
some
it's
people,
okay.
they've been fed a line of lies that says that, it would be morally correct to pass laws that have to do with my religion. Um, that's another thing is like deprogramming,
Hmm.
scores of people is impossible. you
Hmm.
know, so
And but I
I
am
don't have
hopeful.
answers for you.
I don't, girl. I don't either. But
Yeah, yeah,
because I wouldn't be here if I did. I mean, either
yep,
because they had me killed because I had the answers, or like
yeah.
I'd be so well. Um, Either way, but I think that I mean I am hopeful. I think that
Mhm.
we have more tools as regular people than the Roman people did, and all we can do is continue to talk, continue to voice those things out loud, because there's going to be, unfortunately, in our system, people who are going to just say horrible shit. You can't
Yeah,
let them be the only voices,
it's true. That's true.
or else you end up an empire. Yeah,
Right, right. Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think on that note, that's where we'll leave it at like a halfway
Okay.
positive note.
There you
Um,
go. There you
yeah.
go.
So thank you for coming on, Jerry. I know this was a long one,
Absolutely. All
but
good. Thank you for
we,
having me.
yeah. And feel free to tell everybody where they can listen to your show. And like hope
Yeah.
like what's up and coming or whatever.
Yeah, you could pretty much listen to History Boys wherever you get podcasts. We're pretty much out there, I think, on everything. Yeah, go take a listen to us. We just finished a three-part series on Frida Kahlo. We're working on a big series right now. We're gonna release, by the time this is out, it'll probably already be out. But we'll release the first episode of that. So yeah, we're always working.
Yeah. I know,
uh,
and I love that you guys have such range in topics. I'm excited.
yeah,
I've been waiting to listen to your Frida one. I just my life's been crazy, but I that is like on
totally.
like tomorrow. I think I have a long drive, and I was like, I've got to pick it up because I've listened
Yeah,
to many different people talk about Frida's story, but I love that everyone else has it's a little different, and I'll never get tired of her story. And I can't wait to
Yeah,
listen to you guys because y'all are like us and get off the goddamn rails.
we
And
do.
I
We
can
do.
only imagine.
Yeah, my friend Amy, who's a very talented artist herself, does a guest spot on that series. So uh, that was good to have too on that.
That's exciting. I love. Now I've got to listen to it, especially since I like. So I actually, fun fact, I have like so many books on her because I had to do a project, like a
Hmm.
paper, that was like talking about like socialism in art and like her,
Yeah.
because people forget that she was a hardcore communist and had
Oh
revenge
yeah.
sex from Trotsky.
Yep.
To
Yep.
get back her husband for sleeping with her sister
Yep.
because that was his hero. So there was
Yep.
that. But I have her diary. Like it's crazy. I love this. I can't wait to listen. Um, and then
She's
like and
pretty
yeah,
great.
so yeah, um, iconic. Love her.
Indeed.
Also one of the people I didn't know a ton about. I feel like younger. Like I think she was always passed off as I don't know, like low key and chill. I felt
Hmm.
like very wifey and like oh, and then like she's like kind of like one of those people that people are just starting to appreciate her because she was just so quiet. And like no, this chick was
No.
wild. So I
Yeah.
love like if she would approve of any podcast that's off the chain and wild, she'd be like, I
Indeed.
sure did do that. Like
Indeed.
with a
Indeed.
drink in a hand and a smoke in the other. Um,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
uh, so so for sure, anyone who's listening to this, check them out. You guys are great.
Oh, thank you.
It's like one of the like I said, I've inspired a lot of my shows inspired by like kind of how you guys run it. Um,
Oh, thank you.
having
That's good to know.
banter, I love it. Um, makes history approachable for sure. And if you
That's
guys
our
are
aim.
listening, yeah, and if you guys are listening, clearly you know where to find mine. But it's also you can find anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're everywhere. All of them, the Spotify, the iHeart, we even have a YouTube that Courtney's always uploading stuff to. So that way, if you don't want to listen to whatever platform seems less problematic for you, we're on it. Um, so go ahead and give us a listen. A good old, I'm sure you can, a good rating, a good, a nice review, please.
There you go. There you go.
Be gentle. We appreciate it. Really be constructive. Don't be a jerk. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it doesn't help anybody. But
It's low effort. It's
exactly.
low effort.
But thanks for coming on, Jerry, and thank you, listeners, for
Absolutely.
listening. Um, and I hope we get to do this again sometime.
Yes. Yes. I mean, hopefully you're in Seattle one of these days, and we can have you on our show.
It's on the bucket list anyway to go out that way. And I'm like, now I
All
have even
right.
more reason. So my husband's
There
like, all
you
right,
go.
well, I'm out there. I'm like, you tell
There
me.
you go.
So,
All
but
righty. Well, thank you again.
no problem. And as always, guys, thanks for listening, and bye for now.